These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. X-Chair, changing the world one seat at a time. More information at xchairtom.com. Bloomsy Box, simply better blooms. More info available at bloomsybox.com, code TOM. And Boll & Branch Sheets, crafted for the common good. More info at bollandbranch.com, code TOM.
It's the Thom Hartmann University Book Club. Today we're reading from The Undercommons, Fugitive Planning and Black Study by Stefano Harney and Fred Moten. This is from the introduction. It starts with love, exchange, fellowship. It ends as it begins, in motion, in between various modes of being and belonging, and on the way to new economies of giving, taking, being with and for. And it ends with a ride in a Buick Skylark on a way to another place altogether. Surprising, perhaps, after we have engaged dispossession, debt, dislocation, and violence, but not surprising when you have understood that the projects of fugitive planning and black study are mostly about reaching out to find connection. They are about making common cause with the brokenness of being, a brokenness, I would venture to say, that is also blackness, that remains blackness, and will, despite all, remain broken, because this book is not a prescription for repair. If we do not seek to fix what has been broken, then what? How do we resolve to live with brokenness, with being broke, which is also what Moten and Harney called debt? Well, given that debt is sometimes a history of giving, at other times a history of taking, at all times a history of capitalism, and given that debt also signifies a promise of ownership but never delivers on that promise, we have to understand that debt is something that cannot be paid off. Debt, as Harney puts it, presumes a kind of individualized realization to a naturalized economy that is predicated upon exploitation. Can we have, he asks, another sense of what is owed that does not presume a nexus of activities like recognition and acknowledgement, payment and gratitude? Can debt become a principle of elaboration? Moten thinks Moten links economic debt to the brokenness of being in the interview with Stefan Shukatis, who he acknowledges that some debts should be paid and that much is owed, especially to black people, by white people. And yet he says, I also know that it is, that what it is that is supposed to be repaired is irreparable. It can't be repaired. The only thing we can do is tear this stuff down completely and build something new, end of quote. The Undercommons do not come to pay their debts, to repair what has been broken, to fix what has been undone. If you want to know what the Undercommons wants, what Moten and Harney want, what black people, indigenous people, queers, and poor people want, what we, the we who cohabit in the space of the Undercommons want, it is this. We cannot be satisfied with the recognition and acknowledgement generated by the very system that denies A, that anything was ever broken, and B, that we deserve to be the broken part. So we refuse to ask for recognition, and instead we want to take apart, dismantle, tear down that structure right now. That right now limits our ability to find each other, to see beyond it, and to access the places that we know live outside its walls. We cannot say what new structures will replace the ones we live with yet, because once we have torn stuff down, we will inevitably see more and see differently and feel a new sense of wanting and being and becoming. What we want after the break will be different from what we think we want before the break, and both are necessarily different from the desires that issue from being in the dark. Let's come at this by another path. In the melancholic and visionary 2009 film version of Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are, 1963, Max, the small seeker who leaves his room, his home, his family to find the world beyond, finds a world of lost and lonely beasts, and they promptly make him their king. Max is the first king the wild things have had, whom they did not eat, and who did not, in turn, try to eat them. And the beasts are the first grown things that Max has met, who want his opinion, his judgment, and his rule. Max's power is that he is small while they are big. He promises the beasts that he has no plans to eat them, and that this is more than anyone has ever promised them. He promises them that he will find ways through and around, and will slip through the cracks and re-crack the cracks if they fill up. He promises to keep sadness at bay and to make the world with the wild creatures that roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. That Max fails to make the wild things happy or to save them or to make the world with them is less important than the fact that he found them and he recognized in them the end of something and potentially the path to an alternative in his world, or an alternative to his world, excuse me. The wild things were not the utopian creatures of fairy tales. They were the rejected and lost subjects of the world Max had left behind. And because he shuttles between the Oedipal land where his mother rules and the ruined world of the wild, he knows the parameters of the real. He sees what is included and what is left out, and he is now able to set sail for another place, a place that is neither the home he left nor the home to which he wants to return. Moten and Harney want to gesture to another place, a wild place that is not simply the leftover space that limbs real and regulated zones of polite society. Rather, it is a wild place that continuously produces its own unregulated wilderness. The zone we enter through Moten and Harney is ongoing and exists in the present, and as Harney puts it, some kind of demand is already being enacted, fulfilled in the call itself. While describing the riots of London in 2011, Harney suggests that the riots and insurrections do not separate out the request, the demand, and the call. Rather, they enact the one in the other. The book is The Undercommons, Fugitive Planning and Black Study.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, happy Friday, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak, and happy Hanukkah, by the way. I believe the first day of Hanukkah was yesterday afternoon at sundown. Although my mentor, I can't speak for Jewish rule, as it were, but my mentor always, Godfrey Mueller, always taught me that the Sabbath was the highest and holiest holiday, which is, beginning tonight at sundown, at least in that tradition. And so, anyhow, anything goes seditious Friday. The Congressman Ro Khanna is going to be with us for our entire second hour today. I just want to toss a question out as we start Anything Goes Friday. Your calls on whatever topics you'd like to talk about this week, whatever's on your mind. And then, as I said, the whole next hour will be Ro Khanna, and then we'll be back to Anything Goes Friday in the third hour. Should we, back in 1862, just to frame this, in 1861, you had, this declaration of secession from the southern states. And Lincoln called for a volunteer army of 70,000 people, and, the Civil War, well, Lincoln thought it would be over in a matter of weeks. Lee, not so much. and Lee was right on that. But in July of 1861, after the secession, the secession happened virtually, at the same time that Abraham Lincoln was sworn in March of 1861. And just a few months later, members of Congress voted on expulsion. They said these members of the Senate, this is just the Senate. I haven't researched the House on this yet. I just started down this line of thinking this morning. But in the United States Senate, what they did is they said, these Southern senators, it was James Mason of Virginia, Robert Hunter of Virginia, Thomas Clingman of North Carolina, Thomas Bragg of North Carolina, James Chestnut of South Carolina, A.O.P. Nicholson of Tennessee, William Sebastian of Arkansas, Charles Mitchell of Arkansas, John Hempel of Texas, and Louis Wigfall of Texas. These senators supported secession. They were seditious. They supported overthrowing the legitimate government of the United States, the Abraham Lincoln administration. And therefore, they should be expelled from the Senate. The resolution of expulsion was introduced on July 10th, 1861. The next day, the Senate voted, and they expelled all those people whose names I just read a moment ago, and probably, you don't recognize any of them anyway, but you get the point. And then, well, it goes farther. This is the resolution. Whereas a conspiracy has been formed against the peace, union, and liberties of the people and government of the United States. And in furtherance of such conspiracy, a portion of the people of the states of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas have attempted to withdraw those states from the Union and are now in arms against the government. And it goes through. And it is apparent to the Senate that said senators are engaged in said conspiracy for the destruction of the Union and government, or with full knowledge of such conspiracy, have failed to advise the government of its progress or aid in its suppression. Therefore, resolve that Mason, Hunter, Klingman, blah, 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 that they hereby are, each and all of them, expelled from the Senate of the United States. And boom, in one vote, 10 senators were removed from the United States Senate. The one guy who wasn't, William Sebastian, he did not engage in Confederate politics or military service. He was from Arkansas. He returned home, resumed his practice of law, and did not support the Confederacy, although he died in 1865. But, this is, I think that what we are seeing right now with this lawsuit out of Texas, I get it that, Greg Abbott and, Ken Paxton specifically, the Attorney General for Texas, is desperately trying to get Donald Trump to notice him so that Donald Trump will give him a pardon, because he's been under investigation for a while now for multiple federal crimes. Fraud seems to be the largest kind of category that they're thrown into, and he thinks that with this stunt he's going to get Donald Trump's attention, and Donald Trump is going to be passing out pardons like candy pretty soon, and he wants to be on that list. I get that. And I further get it, and I think this is the important point, that 106 members of the House of Representatives, Republican members of the House of Representatives, who signed on to this crazy request that Trump issued for friend of the court briefs, amicus briefs with the U.S. Supreme Court, that these guys are looking at the 2022 election. Every single member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election every 2 years. And they are all going to face primaries, every single Republican in the House. Well, actually, not all of them, but they all could face primaries. And these 106 of them are apparently terrified that Donald Trump, even out of office, will have the power to stir up their base against them in the face of a primary. So they're still terrified of Trump. And people like Ted Cruz, presidential ambitions, he wants to run for president in 2024. That's why he's offering to argue this case before the Supreme Court. I get all the, why they're doing this. But it's still sedition. This is still an attempt to overthrow the electoral processes of the United States of America. Sedition is a crime. I mean, it's like a high crime, as in high crimes and misdemeanors. It is a crime for which, in the past, members of the House and Senate have been expelled by those bodies. And I can't imagine that if a bunch of Democratic senators in 2016 or members of the House, either one, had gone on the record saying that even though the official result was of the Electoral College, I realize Trump lost the popular vote, the national vote, by 3 million people, but we've got this weird archaic system, the Electoral College. If 106 members of the Democratic Party had gone on record back in 2016 saying, we believe we are going to petition the Supreme Court to ignore the votes of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania and declare that Hillary Clinton is president. Had they done that, there is no doubt in my mind that Kevin McCarthy, who is the number one Republican in the House, would be leading an expulsion challenge against them and calling for trials for treason and sedition. And I know, the Republicans are brutal and the Democrats are nice guys, and the Democrats want everybody to have a pony, or at the very least have, $300 a week. And the Republicans are like, screw them, we want employer liability limits. I get all that. But it's still sedition. Do you agree with me that these Republicans should now be expelled from Congress, that there should be serious consequences for this, and that all of them who are lawyers should be disbarred by their local bar associations? I mean, it seems to me like there needs to be consequences, that if there are not consequences, sedition is going to become the new norm, and this country is going to be ripped apart. What do you think? Back with your calls after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And yeah, it's Anything Goes Friday. You don't have to call about sedition, but we will pick up the conversation right after. And welcome back. Nicholas in San Cristobal, Mexico. Hey, Nicholas, what's up?
Wow, great pickup today. Thank you for the speech. What's on my mind? A lot, as is on your mind. If I can put two things together quickly, I want your opinion on something because I'm concerned, as we all are. I read a brief article by Ray Dalio. You may remember the name. He's the man who started the enormous Bridgewater hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates.
Yeah, he's the guy who called the 2008 crash.
Right.
Famously.
Smart guy. Now, I don't follow hedge fund managers because they're probably the least admirable people in the society, as well as they play everybody else and, game the situation. However, I do regard him as a very smart man, and this is half my link. I'm hurrying. He said this week that he has been tracking the rise and fall of empires as sort of a hobby of his for many years, apparently. He says the United States is one step shy from one of two things: revolution or civil war. That got my attention. And then I linked it with an article yesterday in the New York Times by Thomas Edsall, also a fairly conservative writer who I don't follow closely, but whom I do regard as a very smart man. Did you catch the article yesterday, The Resentment That Never Sleeps?
Yeah, I saw the headline. I didn't read the article. I'll do it this afternoon.
Oh, my God. You had recommended just a few days ago what The Social Dilemma, so I watched it. Mm-hmm. And you had said you thought that was one of the most important docs you'd seen in quite a while. Well, it was. I agree. And I think the article by Thomas Edsall yesterday was one of the most important things I've read in possibly years. It had a lot to do with new research coming out as to what motivates people to fall either to the far left or to the far right. Many of the same kind of people who go opposite extremes for different reasons. It turns out it's not economic fear, as people thought for a long, long while. It turns out that the undoing of social status is the great motivator and fear driver that drives people, particularly to the far right. They're terrified of losing status. They're not as afraid of losing money, amazingly. I would have thought that was
also known as white privilege, and because status is the door that you have to open to get wealth.
That's exactly
to a large
right.
extent.
So when they feel to be in the process of being replaced by a growing Latino percentage in the overall population, ever more successful black people, or at least some more successful, they don't want any to be successful. They feel as though their status is being challenged.
Yeah, Obama was a great shaking event for them.
Yeah. This is enormous, it turns out. It's a Danish study primarily, and it is beyond brilliant. I'd recommend it to you seriously and to everybody. The Resentment That Never Sleeps, Thomas Edsall. It is just brain popping. Yeah. So when you put Dalio together with that, I'm like, what do you think lies ahead? This is a serious issue that I would love your opinion on quickly if you can.
We're going to hit the break in 10 seconds here, Nicholas. So let me answer your question on the other side of the break, okay,
sure.
Before I pick up the next call.
Sure.
Because it's a serious question, and it deserves more than a 15-second answer. Nicholas, always great to hear from you, and thanks for moderating our chat rooms over there on YouTube.
Well, bless you for what you do, Tom.
Yeah, a tip of the hat to you. Yep, see you later. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 20 minutes past the hour. the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Did you know that there have been 8 federal judges who have been convicted and removed from the federal bench? 15 altogether have been impeached. 8 have been removed from office since the beginning. 3 of them since 1988, including one judge, Thomas Porteous down in Louisiana, who was impeached and removed from office for signing false financial declarations under penalty of perjury, which it turns out it looks like Clarence Thomas did for quite a number of years when he did not disclose, as he is required by law to do, that his wife was taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Heritage Foundation. That and his perjury around Anita Hill and others, there were numerous witnesses that didn't even get called, could legitimately spark an impeachment of Clarence Thomas. We got a video about this over at ThomHartmann.com for supporters of our program. Check it out. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So Nicholas, the moderator in our chat room, points out that people are speculating that we might be heading for a civil war, that we might be heading for, a tearing apart of the democracy, or even a cold civil war, and was asking, what do I see? What are my thoughts on this? And I just want to lay them out very, very quickly. I get that we are in a political crisis right now. We are in a constitutional crisis right now. We are in a massive economic crisis right now, and millions, tens of millions of Americans are suffering in ways that they haven't suffered since the Great Depression in nearly 100 years. And that we are experiencing, we're in the middle of a health crisis. But the main thing that is the identifiable kind of light switch, the on-off switch, between a country that experiences crisis and then gets through that crisis, and I'm talking about democratic nations here, republics, if you will, and between that and a nation that experiences a crisis and as a consequence of that crisis flips into civil war, as the United States did in 1861, the principal differentiating factor between those two kinds of countries or societies is the strength, resilience, credibility, and widespread acceptance of the authority of government. When the majority of people believe that their government is solid, is stable, is credible, and when in fact the government can easily maintain control over police, over the military, over basically the levers of power within a nation, then civil war becomes very, very difficult. Countries like that can go through a lot of change, but they don't go through civil war. And on the other hand, when government is sufficiently weakened, typically from within, so it can no longer perform its normal functions like keeping the people safe, which I would argue we are seeing right now with Donald Trump's totally incompetent response to the coronavirus, resulting in 1/3 dead Americans. And a death rate in the United States right now, every single day we lose more people than we did on 9/11. Every single day we lose more people than we did in Pearl Harbor. Every single day we lose more people than we did in the Titanic sinking. I mean, is now a small event. It was only 1,000 people. 3,000 people a day. So yeah, those are all indicators that our government has weakened. But I would submit to you that our government has been weakened largely by having Donald Trump in the White House and having these sycophants in Congress who have supported him in his sabotage. And Mitch McConnell, who yesterday Dr. Frank identified as a psychopath. And that kind of psychopathy is not a good thing, right? I would say that the weakening, the current weakness of our government is largely resting in two men, Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell, and the people who are willing to collaborate with them. But it has not yet extended into our military, and to a large extent it has not yet extended into our police departments. We have some sheriff's offices that are refusing to enforce laws and declaring themselves above the law. But they are not the norm. So the bottom line of all this, and sorry to turn this into a whole long rant, and then I promise I will pick up your calls right after this. But in my mind, the bottom line of all this is that we are not, I don't believe that the United States is at imminent risk of civil war. I don't think we're about to start shooting at each other. In fact, the few people who have tried that, you know, the guys who wanted to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer and take her to Wisconsin and hold a show trial for her to show what a communist she is and all this kind of, they're in prison. The guys who, there have been several what you could call coup attempts, assassination attempts, kidnapping attempts, or plans. All of them are right-wingers, by the way. I think it's important to note. The problem here is confined to one side of the political spectrum. Yeah, there's some people in Portland who have, broken some windows. That is not going to bring a civil war. Some of the more deluded among them think it might, but it's not. But what's going on the right, frankly, I don't think is going to bring about a civil war either, because our institutions are standing. Yes, Bill Barr is corrupt and has corrupted the Justice Department. There are numerous people in Trump's cabinet where the inspectors general of their departments have called for them to be prosecuted. Rachel Maddow went through the list last night on her program. I commend that to you. And Bill Barr refused to prosecute them. So yeah, the rule of law has been weakened, but our institutions are holding. So don't worry about civil war. That's not what's coming. But we've got some serious house cleaning to do. We got to clean this situation
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And in my opinion, that starts with, at the very least, slapping the hands of, reprimanding, and for most, expelling these 106 members of Congress.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Today we're reading from David Enrich's book, Dark Towers, Deutsche Bank, Donald Trump, and an Epic Trail of Destruction. This is from Chapter 10. It's titled The Mar-a-Lago Prize. In 1905, a German immigrant living in the Bronx set up a small barber shop on the ground floor of a newly constructed building at 60 Wall Street, in the heart of Manhattan's booming financial district. In an era before skyscrapers, the 25-story L-shaped tower was a landmark, its gargoyle-guarded roof visible from the nearby waterfront. The barbershop thrived, offering shaves and trims to a procession of bankers, stock exchange traders, lawyers, and office workers. Barber's name was Frederick Trump. The same year that he opened the shop, his wife gave birth to a boy named Fred. Many years passed, and the barbershop closed, and the old 60 Wall Street gave way in 1989 to a new 60 Wall Street, a 47-story tower topped with a distinctive pyramid roof. For a time, it was home to J.P. Morgan and Company. Then the bank left, and in 2005, Deutsche Bank started relocating its American staff, displaced ever since 9/11, to its new home at 60 Wall Street. And so Frederick Trump's grandson, born to Fred's wife in 1946, became an occasional visitor to the site of his grandfather's old barber shop. Deutsche's relationship with Donald Trump had only deepened since Mike Offit left. Justice Justin Kennedy, this is the son of Justice Anthony Kennedy, Justin Kennedy, now a managing director, had become a key point contact for Trump and helped chaperone large real estate deals for him through the bank.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CB Distillery.
Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, 877-378-8669. It's the giving season, as it's often referred to. And it's a great time to be generous if you have the ability. And Free Speech TV is a great place to share your generosity with. It's an extraordinary television network, and it's supported entirely by its listeners. No billionaires behind it, no big corporations behind it. The only mention of corporations, in fact, that you will see is probably during my show when we put up that 1 minute about our sponsors, and that's supporting my end of the show. None of that goes to the network. So they rely literally 100% on your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, and help out Free Speech TV. Keep this network going, keep this network alive, keep this network vibrant and vital. There's so much great programming on Free Speech TV. Give them a call. Tell them what you like, tell them what you don't, tell them what you'd like to see more of. It's a great opportunity and time to provide feedback. Most important when you're making a gift to Free Speech TV is to consider a regular monthly contribution to become what's called a sustaining member. And the sustaining members are a large part of the real backbone and core of what keeps Free Speech TV going, in addition to some just very dedicated, wonderful employees and a great team of people and some great programs. I think we do a pretty good job too, I hope. But you add all that together and it's really worth support. It's worthy. Free Speech TV is worthy of your support. Please call now, 877-378-8669. They have a bunch of premiums. With the regular recurring gifts,
selling stocks and bonds
regardless
to investors,
of whether
agreed to work with
$5
Trump.
a month, or
The
whether
point
you
man
commit
on
to
this part of the
$50
relationship was Richard.
You will get a Free Speech TV refrigerator magnet that is just like super cool. And with the one-time gifts, you have your choice. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. Our friend of our show, Caleb, printed these up for us. He has a printing company, printed these up for us years ago. Periodically sends us a new box. It's just like, it's kind of a gift to us, and now a gift to you with your $20 gift to Free Speech TV. Or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the tote bag, and these are really nice heavy-duty canvas tote bags that says change never happens from the top down, and which is so true. Change always happens from the bottom up. That's why I do Free Speech TV every day. That's why I do my show. Because if I can inspire you and you can inspire others, then collectively from the bottom up we can change society. That's the message of that tote bag. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a variation on Margaret Mead's old saying that never think that a small group of, I'm paraphrasing here, a small group of dedicated people can't change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV black hat or the Thom Hartmann Program ceramic mug, or porcelain, or whatever they call that, a good heavy-duty sturdy mug. With a $100 gift, a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Free Speech TV Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which is very cool. The one I think is going to be a collector's item. With a $120 gift, you get a choice of either the Free Speech TV t-shirt or either one of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. These have a bookplate in them autographed by me, so they become collector's items as well. Or you can sell them for an extra $5 on eBay. So there's that. With a $240 gift, get together with us for our online virtual meet and greet, or get the Free Speech TV hoodie, or get both my books, Monopoly and Oligarchy, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, the Thom Hartmann University winter box. That's the Oligarchy book, the Monopoly book, the set of 2 face masks, and the Quarantine 2020 tumbler. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. I almost said Washington. Come to Portland, Oregon, and hang out with us as we do our show. Welcome back to Anything Goes Friday. Bill in St. Helens, Oregon. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Hey, Tom, quick sidebar on the 14th Amendment. Not even a presidential pardon can restore any person to government service having once been disbarred under the 14th Amendment. It takes two-thirds vote of both houses. So that's important to remember. Okay, my point. 3 days ago, Judge Emmett Sullivan of the D.C. District Court dismissed the Michael Flynn case as moot after a Trump preemptive pardon. Okay. I think of the pardon as a get-out-of-jail-free card, Tom. It serves no purpose until you land on the go directly to jail square. If it is instead used to dismiss all relevant criminal investigations and potential prosecutions, it creates a circular situation where it can never actually be invoked. The American people in history are entitled to know the depth and breadth of crimes committed by the people serving in their names. Investigations and prosecutions should proceed accordingly. It serves two critical purposes. Obviously, I'm reading this because I had to write it down. First, history will record every criminal act for which the person is convicted. Second, the full breadth and depth of each preemptive pardon will be public record. If there is no way to keep score, there's no way to judge the Constitution.
Bill, instead of reading this, just tell me, please. It's very hard to follow people when they're reading.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell me your point.
Okay. My point is, if let's say that Trump pardons all of his children, the way it's going right now by Judge Sullivan, what will happen is nobody will be investigated. No charges will be given. Everything goes away. All is forgiven. What an incredible insult to history. Yes. Yeah. What an incredible insult to history. We need to know what crimes they committed. We need to see what crimes they would have been convicted of, and we need to know how this blanket pardon is being applied. Let's see. It turns out that Jared killed 15 people, and Ivanka, sold secrets to the Russians, whatever.
Jared gave the Saudis the information to kill Khashoggi. I mean, that should be at the top of the list.
Sure.
I get what you're saying, Bill, and I think that, if you look at Ford's pardon of Nixon, which ended all the investigations into Nixon, or George Herbert Walker Bush's Christmas Eve pardon of Caspar Weinberger and Ollie North and 3 other people in Iran-Contra so that they couldn't testify against George Bush. If you look at those pardons, that's exactly what happened, is all the investigations stopped. And in the case, certainly of Ollie North, he was able to even redeem his own reputation because, his crimes were never really fully revealed to the American public, although I believe he had already been convicted. But the only way that I can think of, you don't want the Justice Department burning really valuable, really rare resources investigating people who can never be prosecuted, right? The whole point of an investigation is to prepare a prosecution. So therefore, the way that should be done is by, some House or Senate committee, and if the Democrats don't get the Senate, I'm guessing it would be a House committee, that is impaneled specifically to look into and inform the American people about crimes committed by persons who were pardoned, by the president, in a corrupt fashion. You can't challenge the pardon because that power is more or less absolute. There are some pardons arguably you could challenge, but it would be up to the Supreme Court, and they're going to give him pretty wide latitude. But the way I think to make Americans, help Americans become very, very clear about what these crimes were would be to do it that way, and that would be a public airing of them. And like that. Whether the Democrats are willing to invest the resources in that, because again, just like with the Justice Department, what's the end point here? And I totally get your point that if the American people don't ever really know the extent of the crimes that were committed by these politicians, then how do we protect from, against future politicians? I think that was the big lesson of Jerry Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon. And frankly, the big lesson of George Herbert Walker Bush's pardon of Weinberger and North et al., which is very rarely discussed. But it was a huge news event in December of 1992. So I'm with you, Bill. Did I answer your question and summarize what you were saying?
You did, and you're saying we shouldn't dedicate the resources. The flip side is if there's no, and I like your idea, if there is no accountability, if there's no ultimate accountability for the potential crimes, whether investigative committee or whatever, there's literally the gloves are off. Go into office, commit all the crimes you want. Absolutely no concern for the punishment that may.
Oh yeah, you're describing the Republican Party right now, Bill.
After 40 years of being given pass after pass after pass, the GOP has decided, hey, we can be criminals, we can be seditious, we can be traitors. It doesn't matter. We're not going to be held to account. The one party that can hold these folks to account in a much more moderate way is the Fourth Estate, is the press. Lamar Waldron, my old writing partner, wrote a brilliant book about the crimes of Richard Nixon around Watergate. It's absolutely must-reading. There have been several books written about Iran-Contra. But the fact of the matter is most people don't read books, and most people are never going to know that. But at least it gets it into the historical record. I know of no other way to do these things, Bill, unless you see something I'm missing.
If you get a chance, Stephen Schmidt, old Republican campaign guy, Stephen Schmidt was on Rachel Maddow last night, and he did the most brilliant, minute and a half, 2 minute synopsis. I'm sorry, it was on Lawrence O'Donnell. He did the most brilliant minute and a half, 2 minute synopsis, and he basically said 106 Republicans with full knowledge, the education, the intelligence, the full knowledge that our next president is Joe Biden, has in fact, he said they in fact are totally, just everything you've been saying this morning, they've totally overridden
their committing sedition. Constitution. They should be expelled.
Yes.
I am absolutely, yes, I am absolutely there. And this weekend I intend to be writing an op-ed that's absolutely there. And although probably, a dozen other people will beat me to it after saying that. But I think that, if we don't have accountability, we don't have a system. Bill, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Russ in Hickory Hill, Illinois. Hey, Russ, what's up?
Yeah, Tom. I had a call because I had a laugh. Joe Scarborough, Jennifer Rubin, Rick Tyler. All of a sudden now it's the great Ronald Reagan's fault that this party's in this shape today. If they would have reined him in, Joe Scarborough's going off on all the stuff that this guy did wrong. And I'm laughing. I'm going, ain't it funny now, 40 years later, now that all his cynical people who would back him are dead, so you figure you can get a pass on it. Don't blame Trump. Yeah. Blame Ronald Reagan for our problem, which really, Tom, it's the Blue Dog Democrats. Tip O'Neill, Chris Matthews' boss. He helped them. He was in charge of the Senate. And let's be honest, Tom, let's go back to this election. All you Blue Dog Democrats in Maine who put Susan Collins in when she was down by 7 to win by 9, there ain't enough Republicans in Maine to put her back in, Tom. Maybe I'm wrong, but we help these people.
Well, there's a lot of independence, and Maine is, large parts of Maine tend to think of themselves as kind of almost a separate country. And perhaps a good reason. I mean, they're geographically isolated.
Well, I wish they should see, what's his name says. But
I get your point, Ross. The one thing I would add to it is that, my wife makes jokes that on my tombstone it's going to say it all started with Reagan. And I've been singing that mantra on this program for 18 years and in my writings for 30 years, or longer. But that said, it really all started with the guys who funded Reagan. And almost nobody's talking about that. It started with the guys who funded the John Birch Society in the 1960s, and the principal one among them was Fred Koch, and funding these billboards all over the United States, starting in around 1956, that really picked up steam in '61 after John Kennedy was sworn in, that said impeach Earl Warren, and the day that Kennedy came into Dallas, full-page ad with a black border calling for Kennedy's impeachment and removal from office, for essentially treason. And these right-wing billionaires really got this show on the road, and other right-wing billionaires have continued it. I mean, Robert and Rebecca Mercer funding the whole thing via Facebook, with Cambridge Analytica and everything that put Donald Trump in the White House in 2016, and Mark Zuckerberg enthusiastically going along with it. I really think that we need to be looking at the whole thing, at this thing holistically, systemically. It's not just one guy. It's not just in the case, in this moment right now, the one guy is Donald Trump, and he's, leading the crusade. But it wasn't just Reagan. Reagan was a made man. Well, he was made by Nancy Davis's father's rich buddies in California first, and then General Electric second, who put him on a national stage and traveled him all around the United States. And then, by the usual suspects, the Hunts and the Kochs and whatnot in the 1980s. And they continue to fund every single state. These state policy institutes, every single state in the United States has a separate think tank, right-wing think tank, that just feeds information to right-wing talk show hosts every single day, local hosts, local information. There's nothing like this on the left. There was for a short while the Center for American Progress, sort of. But they were right in the middle, and they were taking money from big corporations, and it was kind of a mess. But, let's look at the whole system here.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's Anything Goes Friday. Back with more of your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Mayor in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Hey, Mayor, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to call you 2 weeks ago, but you didn't have a show because of Thanksgiving. And I had something I had just figured out. You had Dr. Braddock from Rutgers on your show, and he spent almost 40 minutes talking about what Q is, QAnon. Mm-hmm. But I have figured out the why of QAnon, and if you can indulge me for a minute and a half, I can explain it. It hit me while I was watching a video by Holy Kool-Aid over the Thanksgiving holiday about AG Josh Shapiro here in Pennsylvania uncovering pedophile priests in Pennsylvania. And the phrase, save the children, popped into my head. Now, the Q people are conservatives, and cons like institutions to remain stable. Even if they're not a part of that institution, they like the landscape to stay the same. Q is a reaction to the child rape scandal in the Catholic Church. These people are deflecting and projecting the egregious horror of these pedophile priests and the other abuses, such as the selling of children in Ireland. Q is a denial mechanism. Here's a good analogy. If a large asteroid got pulled into an orbit in the Kuiper Belt, let's say the four big gas giants had their position just right, pulled it into the Kuiper Belt, it would have tremendous gravity and it would start pulling along all these little pebbles. And this would explain, this analogy explains how all of these decentralized individuals have gravitated to this movement. And it's far from harmless. Innocent people are being blamed for the wicked, the deeds of the truly wicked. And
I think, Mayor, if I could just jump in, I think you're onto something, and I think that the Catholic priest, pedophile priest scandal laid the ground, seeded the ground, in part established the zeitgeist, and or fed it. That makes perfect sense to me. I do think, though, that there are other actors, including right-wing billionaires in the United States and foreign governments, that have been pouring gasoline into this what started out as a relatively small fire. And
Q itself, though, is one individual, right? As far as we know, one group.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised.
It's most likely this guy in the Philippines who runs a message board, yeah.
It would not surprise me if Q himself were a Catholic priest. It would not surprise me.
Although I think that it's, an American geek who moved to the Philippines and started a message board over there, and is just a very, very bizarre person. But just from what I've read, I mean, I don't pretend to be any expert on this or any authority on it. I just, I just know that it's bizarre. And I agree with you. It's dangerous. It's destructive. I mean, the people have been killed in the name of this conspiracy theory. So, Mayor, I got to run, but thank you for the call. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. Stick around. It's the Thom Hartmann Program. Anything Goes Friday. Up next in the next hour, Congressman Khanna will be taking your calls for the hour. Stick around. The Hidden History of Monopoly tells how Robert Bork, yeah, that guy from the Reagan era, transformed corporate America and destroyed the American dream. So John Kasich was recently on CNN talking about how Democrats need to be listening to rural America, words to that effect. No, I think Democrats need to be talking to rural America and reminding rural America that it was a Democratic president that got them Social Security. It was a Democratic president that brought electricity to rural America, the RTA through, or the REA rather through the Franklin Roosevelt administration. It was the Democratic Party who brought phones to rural America. It was the Democratic Party that brought Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and public education to rural America, subsidized all those things. Democrats don't need to be listening to rural America. They need to be talking to rural America. There's over 1,500 right-wing radio stations in rural America talking smack all the time, 24/7, and none in rural America carrying a progressive message. That's what Democrats need to be paying attention to. You can check out our new video on this over at thomhartmann.com. Anything Goes Friday. Jeremiah in Coalport, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jeremiah, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, we've witnessed Trump break multiple laws and get away with it. So I was wondering, worst case scenario, Republicans maintain the Senate. And how do you feel about Joe Biden defying the Medicare law and directing Health and Human Services to say, we're going to negotiate for lower drug prices? And Republicans would, of course, say, well, you can't do that. It's against the law. And then Joe Biden could say, okay, well, pass it, pass the law. And they'll say, well, we don't want to do that. Fine. Explain it to the American people. So what if we did that, and also if he directed...
It's a great strategy for naming and shaming. Yeah.
And also directing the Postmaster General. Just reserve retirement funds for 5 to 10 years. No more 75 years. Is that something
I don't even think they need a reserve at all like that. And they've got, they've already got, what, $40-50 billion in the reserve fund now that they've been saving up for the last decade. Right. That should get blown up too. But I am with you, and I whether that would work or not, it's obviously the Republicans would take it to court, and the courts would say, no, President Biden, you can't do that. And that might allow them to portray him as another Donald Trump, trying to do things extra legally, not outside the boundaries of the law. But some sort of political stunt. Where I agree with you, Jeremiah, is some sort of political stunt is, I think, the Democrats need to get their political theater act together, and they need to do it quickly. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thanks for the call. Jessica in Chicago. Hey, Jessica, what's up?
Yes to everything you guys are saying. And yes,
thank you.
Should they be expelled, especially if they think the election was fraud? Get them out of there, those 106 members.
Well, I don't care what they think, Jessica. I think they should be expelled because they sent a letter to the U.S. Supreme Court saying that a certified election should be overturned. That is sedition. That we need to take people. You go after people for their actions, not their thoughts.
I agree. And then we need to tell Trump, head into the light, and don't just make it Mar-a-Lago. Keep going. Go to Saudi, where they have a palace waiting for you. And let's just call the Republican Party the death party, because that's who they are. They don't care about life. They call for Trump's impeachment now. The whole country is in danger of extreme death tolls from the coronavirus. And
we're already experiencing extreme death tolls.
Yeah.
We've got more people dying every day than died on 9/11. We've got more people dying than died on Pearl Harbor Day. We're going to have twice as many people dying every day as died in Pearl Harbor in about 3-4 weeks. When you look at the hospitalization rates and the inevitable death rates that follow them, it's absolutely insane. With regard to Trump going to Saudi Arabia, yeah, he's got properties all around the world, and he could probably show up pretty much anywhere. He definitely wants to go someplace where there's not an extradition treaty. But Jessica, you may find it interesting that there are several reports in the press saying that within Russia, the Russian state media, the commentators talking to each other and things like this, they're all discussing, whether or not Donald Trump and advocating basically that Donald Trump should be given an opportunity to come to Russia like Ed Snowden did, be given refuge. Build his tower, whatever he wants to do, become a good guy in Russia. So, I'd say, see you later, Donald. I'm okay with that. Jessica, I can move along, but thank you. Raven in Grants Pass, Oregon. Hey, Raven, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I was calling to talk to you about, there's been a lot of talk about healthcare and all this. So I used to be a census database manager and zip code coverage area manager of these databases. And it's like the USPS adds and deletes zip codes all the time. So the zip code I used to live in, 92680, was deleted from that database. The managed care organizations do exactly the same thing. They add and delete zip codes all the time. So if you live in an area where there's going to be some kind of toxic waste dump or something like that, or some kind of corporation that's going to, pollute the area, the healthcare organizations will not cover you. So that's my case for a national health care program.
Yeah.
Second,
wasn't that resolved under the Affordable Care Act, Raven?
Well, I'm not sure.
If you do business in a state, you can't discriminate against people based on region, or anything else, race, gender, etc. But
yeah, well, one would hope.
Yeah, I think it was. I could be wrong. I don't know everything. I haven't looked into this specifically, but I'm pretty sure that practice, which was, one of the more egregious practices of the health insurance companies, along with rescissions and all these other things, I think that practice was outlawed. We'll be back. Congressman Khanna will be taking your calls for the hour right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. X-Chair, changing the world one seat at a time. More information at xchairtom.com. Bloomsy Box, simply better blooms. More info available at bloomsybox.com, code TOM. And Boll & Branch Sheets, crafted for the common good. More info at bollandbranch.com, code TOM.
Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, 877-378-8669. It's the giving season, as it's often referred to. And it's a great time to be generous if you have the ability. And Free Speech TV is a great place to share your generosity with. It's an extraordinary television network, and it's supported entirely by its listeners. No billionaires behind it, no big corporations behind it. The only mention of corporations, in fact, that you will see is probably during my show when we put up that 1 minute about our sponsors, and that's supporting my end of the show. None of that goes to the network. So they rely literally 100% on your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And help out Free Speech TV. Keep this network going. Keep this network alive. Keep this network vibrant and vital. There's so much great programming on Free Speech TV. Give them a call. Tell them what you like. Tell them what you don't. Tell them what you'd like to see more of. It's a great opportunity and time to provide feedback. Most important when you're making a gift to Free Speech TV is to consider a regular monthly contribution to become what's called a sustaining member. And the sustaining members are a large part of the real backbone and core of what keeps Free Speech TV going, in addition to some just very dedicated, wonderful employees and a great team of people and some great programs. I think we do a pretty good job too, I hope. But you add all that together and it's really worth support. It's worthy. Free Speech TV is worthy of your support. Please call now, 877-378-8669. They have a bunch of premiums. With the regular recurring gifts, regardless of whether you commit to $5 a month or whether you commit to $50 a month, you will get a Free Speech TV refrigerator magnet that is just like super cool. And with the one-time gifts, you have your choice. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. Our friend of our show, Caleb, printed these up for us. He has a printing company, printed these up for us years ago. Periodically sends us a new box. It's just like, it's kind of a gift to us and now a gift to you with your $20 gift to Free Speech TV. Or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the tote bag, and these are really nice heavy-duty canvas tote bags that says change never happens from the top down, and which is so true. Change always happens from the bottom up. That's why I do Free Speech TV every day. That's why I do my show. Because if I can inspire you and you can inspire others, then, collectively, from the bottom up, we can change society. That's the message of that tote bag. It's pretty cool. It's, kind of a variation on Margaret Mead's old saying that never think that a small group of, I'm paraphrasing here, a small group of dedicated people can't change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV black hat or the Thom Hartmann Program ceramic mug, or porcelain, or whatever they call that, a good heavy-duty sturdy mug. With a $100 gift, a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Free Speech TV Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which is very cool. The one I think is going to be a collector's item. With a $120 gift, you get a choice of either the Free Speech TV t-shirt or either one of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. These have a book plate in them autographed by me, so they become collector's items as well. Or, you can sell them for an extra $5 on eBay. So there's that. With a $240 gift, get together with us for our online virtual meet and greet, or get the Free Speech TV hoodie, or get both my books, Monopoly and Oligarchy, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, the Thom Hartmann University winter box. That's the Oligarchy book, the Monopoly book, the set of 2 face masks, and the Quarantine 2020 tumbler. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. I almost said Washington. Come to Portland, Oregon here, and hang out with us as we do our show, and we'll get a bite to eat afterwards. This is all obviously post-quarantine, so we're building up a list right now. But the most important thing is that you're helping Free Speech TV. And in particular, if you can help out with these regular monthly gifts. If you want to give a one-time gift, that's wonderful, and you get the premium. And then you could just say, you know, yeah, I'd really like that autographed copy of The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which won't be out for another couple months, about a month and a half, 2 months now. But it will come, and it'll be an autographed copy. Say, yeah, I'd love that Hidden History of Oligarchy, so, let me give you $120, but also, you know, take $5 off my credit card for the rest of the year, or for, you know, whatever, until I tell you to stop. So you can do both, and you'll get the refrigerator magnet too, the calendar. Call now, 877-378-8669.
Senator Taft. Anyhow, the book is The Age.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back to the second hour of our program. Congressman Khanna is on the line with us for the hour, taking your calls at 202-808-9925. He represents the 17th District of California in the U.S. House of Representatives. He is the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov is his website. You can tweet him at Rep, as in Representative, Rep Khanna. Congressman Khanna, welcome back.
Welcome. It's great to be back on your show, Tom, and I am looking forward to taking all the calls with listeners. I mean, it's a really frustrating time on the Hill right now, where McConnell is basically standing in the way of any relief for the American people.
Yeah, it's a true tragedy. I was sharing with my listeners this morning, and I'd just like to get your thoughts on this, or what you're hearing. On July 10th, 1861, a resolution was introduced into the United States Senate to expel 10 members. Those were 10 members from states that had seceded from the Union. It passed the next day, and they were expelled. And there was one member who wasn't, from Arkansas, because he refused to go along with the Confederacy. But I'm thinking that these 106 Republicans who signed this letter to the U.S. Supreme Court are engaging in seditious behavior, and if not being expelled, I would favor expulsion, but I'm not a member of Congress, and I can I can say things on the radio that a person like yourself might be a little more circumspect about. But at the very least, yeah. At the very least, face some sort of a consequence, whether it's whatever the congressional version of a slapping of the hand is. Is there any talk among the Democratic caucus about holding these guys to account for trying to basically devastate democracy in the United States for participating in this conspiracy?
Well, the accountability has to come from their own party. I mean, obviously, we'll condemn them on the floor, and the Supreme Court, in my view, and every legal scholar I've talked to, his view is not going to take this case. So this is going to be a moot point once we get to December 14th, and they're going to look foolish. But to me, the concerning thing is not the fact that these members are doing it, as much as the fact that if you replace them all, you'd have new members from those districts that do the same thing. And so the polarization and the conspiracy theories have permeated the public. And that is what is, I think, deeply concerning. It's not that you have cynical members of Congress manipulating in the behind the scenes, the process. You have a sizable base of people who voted for Trump, who, because of the toxic media environment, because of Fox News, because of OAN, because of Newsmax, because of right-wing radio, have an alternative conception of reality. And, I know you've written and spoken ad nauseum about this, but that's what we have to address, is the media environment that is creating alternative realities in this country, more than, do we censor someone or create pushback, because they're just going to be replaced by the same people with the same ideology.
Yeah, good point. I would add to that toxic stew or goulash or whatever, the foreign actors who are have been since 2015 flooding into Facebook in particular,
yes,
but also other social media sites. And I mean, we had here in Oregon, we had 3 different towns where during the wildfires here, during this really difficult time for the state, we had 3 different towns where dozens, in one case over 100 local people showed up with their hunting rifles and every weapon they could get their hands on. One guy had a pan, right? And a cast iron skillet. He was going to bash. Other guys had baseball bats because they were convinced that busloads of black people were going to be bussed into their little rural Oregon towns from downtown Atlanta, and they were Antifa and BLM protesters who are coming to burn their towns down and rape their women. And all of that got these literally hundreds of people in Oregon in the streets of these small towns, and in some cases some local sheriffs with them, all of that came out of, it appears, Russia. Perhaps Saudi Arabia played a role in this, we're not really sure, but none of that came from U.S. sources. And, we've got to, I think, this is a crisis too.
Yeah, and one of the interesting social media studies, even though it deals with Germany, not the United States, just came out by Counteraction. It turns out that 85% of social media conversation in Germany on Facebook was of the ADF party, which is basically the ultra right-wing extremist party, even though they're getting 15% of the vote because they have bots amplifying and echo chambers. And I'm sure if you studied U.S. social media, the top 10 sites, actually I know this, the top 10 sites, 9 of them are conservative sites, only 1 liberal site in the top 10. So you have conversation that is being totally distorted by algorithmic bots and that are spreading misinformation. It's a very toxic environment. And the one point to make, Tom, is when you talk to Republicans behind the scenes, because I've gotten to know some of them I've worked with to try to end the war in Yemen, they don't, in some cases they'll say, oh, this is just the president being the president and, well, we agree with you. In this case, they actually believe that there was voter fraud and that the election is not legitimate. It is more concerning to me that they have that view of reality than if they were just playing instrumental politics. I mean, we have an epistemic crisis of facts in this country.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. Well, enough of me. Let's pick up phone calls here for you. We've got a lot of people who, I announced an hour ago you were coming on. A lot of people have been waiting to talk with you. So let's get going here. Josh in Virginia Beach, California. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hey, Congressman Khanna. Good to talk to you again. I'm just calling back. I know the last time I called, I asked a question and, you didn't really get a chance to answer quite the point. So I'll ask it again just to give you another opportunity. And the question is, how can we create a viral topic of progressives, bold progressives, encouraging each other to run for all levels of government and party leadership seats and just flood into the party and to transform it from the bottom up? And I know it's very important. I know we all agree it's very important, but I guess my question is, because I'm not seeing it being very viral. I know we have the Sunrise Movement and Our Revolution and some other organizations working on this, but how do we make it super viral so that we're all actually talking about it? Especially right now, we're in filing periods for 2021, and I think a lot of people don't know there's many states that have tons of local, state and local elections, like Virginia's legislature, New Jersey's legislature, lots of mayoral, lots of governorships. And in view of Nina Turner, news that she has filed to run, potentially running for Congress, I know we're all very in big support of that. We're not really hearing a lot of people talking about all the other, opportunities that are going on right now, especially even from like our leaders. Like, I'm not sure if I've heard you talk about 2021 yet. I don't even know if I've heard Nina talk about.
Josh, we just have a minute left. Let's give him a chance to answer here. Okay, thanks.
Josh, it's a great point, and I'm obviously very strongly supportive of Nina Turner, who's going to be running for Marsha Fudge's seat in Ohio. That'd be a big win. She was a co-chair of Bernie's campaign. But you're right. I mean, there are a lot of members of Congress that will be up, obviously, every 2 years, and primaries that we should have progressives in. There are a lot of city council seats, mayor seats, school board seats. And it probably would be good for there to have some organization, an umbrella organization, where you could find information of all progressive candidates running and openings and coordinated with Justice Democrats and Progressive Campaign for Change and Democracy for America and that infrastructure doesn't quite exist. And so you raise a valid point, and I can try to, when I talk to these organizations, see how we can coordinate better.
Yeah. Thank you. Congressman Khanna on the line with us for the hour, taking your calls. Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, representing the 17th District of California in the U.S. House of Representatives. Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov is his website. You can tweet him at Rep. Khanna. And we will be back in just a moment with more of your calls for Congressman Khanna.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's the Thom Hartmann Program, fair and only slightly unbalanced. We're back with your calls for Congressman Khanna. And welcome back. Zach in North Hollywood, California. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Good morning, gentlemen. I wanted to talk about messaging, something Tom brought up Tuesday morning, and I think it's just so important, being that we have so few outlets for our messaging. I'm suggesting that we start messaging and repeating talking points concerning modern socialism. Common sense, I'm suggesting, could be a synonym for modern socialism. Crosswalks, red lights and green lights, refuse removal, the FDA keeping food safe, toilets and sewer system, even subsidies for big oil and the Pentagon, socialism. Pardons and bailouts for political criminals when their schemes fail, socialism. It's all just different forms of socialism, but the main socialism we need to get to is socialism for everyone from the bottom to the top, not just socialism, for high society. It's messaging. We really have to become like the far right on our messaging.
In summary, Zach?
Yeah, in summary, signs or warnings or signals to keep people safe from poison.
Okay, I got it. Congressman, you want to speak to that?
So I think Jack's point is that there are a lot of public goods, public benefits of fire, of police, of public schools, of hospitals, county hospitals, that are part of a free enterprise economy. And when we are talking about expanding public services, expanding public school, expanding public health insurance, we are talking about a framework that is very consistent with American democracy. And unfortunately, what we've had in the last 40 years since the Reagan Revolution has been expanding government help for the rich and not for the working class and middle class. We need to focus on expanding those public services for the working class, middle class, and the poor. And to that extent, I agree.
Tom, also in North Hollywood, California. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hey, Tom. First off, we the people are the government, and we must never forget that. I want to thank Mike Crute at domandcrute.com for the only...
Tom, we just have a minute. If you could really get to it quickly, please.
Yep. Basically, Ro, what I want to hear is, instead of people saying, I don't take money from PACs, I don't take money from the corporations, I want to hear more you guys saying, hey, money and lobbyists are the problem. Call out the money people and the lobbyists and the donation people, because we got to get money out of politics. It's a whole thread that holds everything together. And I know with Citizens United...
Got it. Congressman?
I do say that. I mean, I think that the moneyed interests are the problem. The pharmaceutical moneyed interests, the defense contractor moneyed interests, the fossil fuel moneyed interests, they are the obstacles to Medicare for all. They are the obstacles to $15 minimum wage. They are the obstacles to having strategic smaller defense budgets. So we do say that, and getting money out of politics, big money out of politics, is a major part of the reform we need.
Thank you. And my apologies to everybody for cutting them off, but it's like when people make their point 2-3 times in a row, or they don't get to the point, We have limited time, and a lot of people want to get in and ask Congressman Khanna questions, and so, let's just be concise, please. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. So in our latest video for supporters of our program over at ThomHartmann.com, you'll find a riff about a fellow named Errol Graham. He's a 57-year-old African English individual who starved to death recently in the United Kingdom. The neoliberal Thatcher policies are apparently echoing through the system now in a rather substantial way, the same way that Reaganomics is echoing through the American system, and we've got tens of thousands of Americans who die every year because they lack health care or they can't afford copays and things. And we have literally millions of children in America who are malnourished or even go to bed hungry every night. It's pretty breathtaking stuff, and I think you'll find the rant particularly interesting or useful, and hope you can share it with your friends when you pick it up. It's over at ThomHartmann.com. Thanks again for supporting our program. Welcome back. Congressman Ro Khanna taking your calls for the hour, and Anthony in Detroit, Michigan. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hi, good afternoon or morning, wherever you are. My question is for Congressman, being one of the most, progressive members in Congress. So what's on your personal priority list for the opening days of the new Congress, like first few days, January 3rd, 4th, 5th?
Anthony, first we need to get monthly checks to people. We need to expand unemployment insurance. People are hurting. They can't pay the rent. They can't put food on the table. They're struggling to pay the bills. We've got to get more money into the pockets of ordinary Americans and working class and poor Americans. Second, we've got to get the wage up to $15. I mean, people ought to be paid at least $15, and they ought to be paid for their work. The fact that the federal minimum wage is stuck at $7.25 is absolutely wrong. We know there's a universal appeal for that. And then third, I would say let's get massive investments in infrastructure and creating the modern infrastructure of technology, green jobs, broadband, opportunities for new training facilities and buildings to really revitalize our economy.
Guy in Decatur, Georgia. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yes, hi. I was wondering if it would be possible to pass a law or an executive order that requires anybody that runs for federal public office to publish their tax returns. In my opinion, that would be the best way to keep Trump from running, because he obviously can't produce his tax returns without showing his foreign entanglements and other, difficulties that he would have running.
That's a good idea. I don't know if the Republicans will go for it in the Senate, but a lot depends on Georgia. But I certainly think every Democrat would support that law, and I think it's a reasonable law that you ought to be forced to disclose your taxes if you're going to run for office. As it is, you're required to have your financial disclosure, and I have to disclose everything. I have to disclose any financial transaction every month. So it makes sense that we should be having to disclose our taxes.
Ken in Lafayette, Colorado. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yes, good morning, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. Mr. Khanna, Tom has been touching on this topic all morning and basically holding Republicans accountable. For example, there's 106 who signed under this ridiculous lawsuit. But my question to you is I'm really hoping you and your colleagues, Democratic colleagues, plan on dropping the legal hammer on Trump and all things Republican. I mean, not just these 106 congressmen, for example, Matt Gaetz, excuse me if my terminology isn't correct, but for violating the SCIF rule or the SCIF law, for example. I mean, all these clowns really need to be held accountable despite the right-wing alternative facts and conspiracy theories that they're spreading. So is there any plan to drop the legal hammer, so to speak, on these clowns?
And I agree with you that we need to be enforcing the rules. And what happened on the skiff with people barging in with pizza boxes was unconscionable. But the fact of the matter is, I think one of the approaches the Biden administration and Pelosi have taken is to say Biden is going to be president, Kamala Harris is going to be vice president, and then we don't want to be giving Trump the oxygen of continuing to be relevant. One of the things we need to do is just deprive him of any relevancy. And so there's been a large focus on let's get our cabinet, let's get our agenda, and let's focus on what we're going to do for the American people.
We just have 30 seconds. To what extent does that parallel Jerry Ford's philosophy? And that didn't turn out so well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. But Ford pardoned Nixon, as you know, and there's no way that Biden would pardon Trump. And he's certainly not going to tell his Justice Department Attorney General, don't pursue where the law leads us. I think he's going to have aggressive, smart people in there, and they're going to find out if there were ever efforts to destroy documents, if there were efforts to cover up. And we should have everyone accountable based on the rule of law. But he doesn't have to personally, or Congress people don't have to personally opine. We have to leave it to career prosecutors and give them all of the authority to pursue wherever the law leads them.
My bad. I misread my clock, and now we have 45 seconds. I'm so sorry. I would have had time to get a caller in there, and I don't now. We have about 30 seconds. What do you think about a congressional commission to look into the crimes committed during the Trump presidency?
I think that makes sense. I think there has to be an accounting. And while the Justice Department, I think, should be pursuing most of the legal work, having Congress also look into it, because there may have been certain things that don't fall to a level of prosecution, but certainly were illegal and maybe hard to prove. And we ought to have like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, some effort to look into all of the horrific things that went on, starting with the separation of kids from their parents.
Yeah, amen. Congressman Khanna taking your calls for the hour. He's the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. He represents the 17th District of California in the U.S. House of Representatives. Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov. You can tweet him at Khanna.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's our National Town Hall meeting with Congressman Khanna here on the Thom Hartmann Program, the True People's Media. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, 877-378-8669. It's the giving season, as it's often referred to. And it's a great time to be generous if you have the ability. And Free Speech TV is a great place to share your generosity with. It's an extraordinary television network, and it's supported entirely by its listeners. No billionaires behind it, no big corporations behind it. The only mention of corporations, in fact, that you will see is probably during my show when we put up that 1 minute about our sponsors, and that's supporting my end of the show. None of that goes to the network. So they rely literally 100% on your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, and help out Free Speech TV. Keep this network going. Keep this network alive, keep this network vibrant and vital. There's so much great programming on Free Speech TV. Give them a call. Tell them what you like, tell them what you don't, tell them what you'd like to see more of. It's a great opportunity and time to provide feedback. Most important when you're making a gift to Free Speech TV is to consider a regular monthly contribution to become what's called a sustaining member. And the sustaining members are a large part of the real backbone and core of what keeps Free Speech TV going, in addition to some just very dedicated, wonderful employees and a great team of people and some great programs. I think we do a pretty good job too, I hope. But you add all that together and it's really worth support. It's worthy. Free Speech TV is worthy of your support. Please call now, 877-378-8669. They have a bunch of premiums. With the regular recurring gifts, regardless of whether you commit to $5 a month or whether you commit to $50 a month, you will get a Free Speech TV refrigerator magnet that is just like super cool. And with the one-time gifts, you have your choice. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. Our friend of our show, Caleb, printed these up for us. He has a printing company, printed these up for us years ago. Periodically sends us a new box. It's just like, it's kind of a gift to us, now a gift to you with your $20 gift to Free Speech TV. Or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the tote bag, and these are really nice heavy-duty canvas tote bags that says change never happens from the top down, and which is so true. Change always happens from the bottom up. That's why I do Free Speech TV every day. That's why I do my show. Because if I can inspire you and you can inspire others, then, collectively, from the bottom up, we can change society. That's the message of that tote bag. It's pretty cool. It's, kind of a variation on Margaret Mead's old saying that never think that a small group of, I'm paraphrasing here, a small group of dedicated people can't change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV black hat or the Thom Hartmann Program ceramic mug, or porcelain, or whatever they call that, a good heavy-duty sturdy mug. With a $100 gift, a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Free Speech TV Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which is very cool. The one I think is going to be a collector's item. With a $120 gift, you get a choice of either the Free Speech TV t-shirt or either one of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. These have a bookplate in them autographed by me, so they become collector's items as well. Or, you can sell them for an extra $5 on eBay. So there's that. With a $240 gift, get together with us for our online virtual meet and greet, or get the Free Speech TV hoodie, or get both my books, Monopoly and Oligarchy, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, the Thom Hartmann University winter box. That's the Oligarchy book, the Monopoly book, a set of 2 face masks, and the Quarantine 2020 tumbler. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. I almost said Washington. Come to Portland, Oregon here, and hang out with us as we do our show, and we'll get a bite to eat afterwards. This is all obviously post-quarantine, so we're building up a list right now. But the most important thing is that you're helping Free Speech TV, and in particular, if you can help out with these regular monthly gifts. If you want to give a one-time gift, that's wonderful, and you get the premium, and then you could just say, yeah, I'd really like that autographed copy of The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which won't be out for another couple months, about a month and a half, 2 months now. But it will come, and it'll be an autographed copy. Say, yeah, I'd love that Hidden History of Oligarchy, so, let me give you $120, but also, take $5 off my credit card for the rest of the year, or for, whatever, until I tell you to stop. So you can do both, and you'll get the refrigerator magnet too, the calendar. Call now, 877-378-8669. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast, 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. So we have a new video up for people who are supporters of the Thom Hartmann Program. Specifically, it's over at thomhartmann.com, talking about language, how we use language. Language matters tremendously. And we have chosen as a society, as a culture, as media, as political leadership, etc., not to refer to people like Steve Mnuchin, who threw thousands of people out of their homes illegally during the banking crisis, as looters. not to refer to Rex Tillerson, whose oil company has ravaged much of the third world, literally destroying people's lives, killing people, poisoning people. We don't refer to them as looters. We don't refer to the police who go into neighborhoods and kill people, minorities, particularly African Americans. We don't refer to them as looters, stealing their lives. But when black people rise up and say, no, enough, we call them looters. There's something wrong with this. Check it out. It's at ThomHartmann.com. Welcome back. Congressman Khanna taking your calls for the hour. And Paul in Woodinville, Washington. Paul, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Thank you, Tom. Congressman, my perspective on the seditionist movement is I'm for letting them have their way, because I think that if given a choice, if Donald Trump could be the president of only those 18 states, they'd never have it. What they really want is him to be the president of our states, to put the thumb in our eye. So my question for you is, what strategies can you think of to keep as much money, revenue in blue states, rather than going as revenues for the federal government, because the Republicans need the federal government to put public money in private hands. And as Tom well knows, my suggestion is for the Democrats in Congress to run on repealing the federal income tax and let all taxes, federal, state, and local, be collected at state level, and the federal tax burden be paid by state treasurers based on their representation in Congress. How would you respond to that?
Well, with respect, I disagree. I mean, I don't think we want to be separating the Union. We fought a civil war, and Lincoln valiantly tried to save the Union. And I don't think that the divisions are insurmountable. There is still, if anything, I think the challenge is that there have been places in this country that have been left out economically, minority communities, rural communities. And what we ought to focus on is how we build a multiracial coalition, the type Reverend Barber is building, of working class whites, black, Latino, working class individuals to fight for a $15 wage, to fight for health care, to fight for education in ways that can unify this country. So to write off huge states or huge segments of the population, I just don't believe in that.
Michael in Bronx, New York. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Greetings, gentlemen. Very serious question here. First, I do not like the stunts being pulled by these Republicans in trying to overturn an already decided election by a massive landslide of people who saw fit to vote Trump out. All right? There's 17 plus states.
Michael, what's your question?
The two questions I have is, A,
should
the Supreme Court dismiss it with prejudice?
Okay.
Michael, yes, the Supreme Court should dismiss it. I don't know if they need to dismiss it with prejudice as they're the final court. So once they dismiss it, that's the matter is done, and I don't think you can bring a new case on it. But maybe they should, in case there's some other people thinking of suing on the same similar grounds. But yes, they should dismiss it. I expect them to dismiss it. I doubt the justices themselves want to write an opinion on this, which would be, even for the conservative justices, it would be probably 9-0 or 8-1 or 7-2, maybe with Alito and Thomas possibly trying to come up with some rationale. But they don't want to write an opinion saying that these states are out of their mind and have no legal basis. So my guess is they don't take the case.
Tom in Newcastle, Delaware. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking the call. My suggestions regarding Mitch McConnell and all the bills that he's not acting on is sort of a messaging suggestion that we revive the hashtag Where's Mitch? So whenever the discussion comes up, it's like Congress, we passed a stimulus to provide $600 a week or something like that. And then where's Mitch on this?
Congressman?
I agree with you. I love that Where's Mitch? I think that was very effective when we did it. He's been absent on so many issues, on gun violence, on democracy reform, on infrastructure. And in some ways, he's been the biggest obstacle to any social progress. Trump was an obstacle in terms of American norms and engaging in racist speech and engaging in discrimination. But Trump was not standing in the way of infrastructure bills and was not standing in the way even of a larger stimulus. Mitch McConnell has literally blocked almost every piece of progressive legislation since in my 4 years of Congress. And we have not been able to make that case. People think of Congress and they think all of Congress is broken. Really, the obstacle is McConnell. And even if the Republicans had a different leader, it would be very different. So we need to do a better job making that case.
Shay in Jacksonville, Florida. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yes, good afternoon, Congressman Khanna, Tom, and the listening audience. I just wanted to ask you, sir, when are the Democrats going to re-strategize old strategies? There hasn't been any new effective strategies to deal with the GOP. I would say that you don't impeach because you think that you're going to win. You impeach because there are impeachable offenses. And this way, just as the sedition that is happening right now, you have to indict the seditious acts in order to let anyone that will come after them, your point was, they'll just be replaced. Well, they need to know that there will be consequences as well, that all applicable laws and procedures will apply to them. So I believe that the reason that disinformation has spread the way that it has throughout the land is because Democrats weren't willing to push back. You have to have a full-throated opposition to these types of things. So that's my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shay.
Sure, I completely agree with you in a full-throated opposition, and we have to stand on principle. And on impeachment, we did. I mean, impeachment was politically unpopular. Trump's poll numbers after we impeached went up. Unfortunately, Trump, if it weren't for his total mishandling of the pandemic post-impeachment, he was on course to win re-election. And so the Democrats there did put principle first. And I agree with you. That's the approach we need to take going forward.
Bill in New Rochelle, New York. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yeah, my question is on the same order. I mean, is it too late to go for an additional impeachment of Trump? What if we would have won the Senate with Georgia?
And might that also blow up his pardon powers?
If we win the Senate, you mean to try to impeach him again? But you need 67 votes to convict in the Senate. So we're nowhere near having that. And I think that the key and what everyone wants is for him to leave and then hopefully not hear from him for a while. Someone said to me, and I don't know how true it is, that he's going to go to Florida and then not come back after the holidays. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. With regard to the impeachment, the impeachment clause says that, or the pardon clause says that he has the pardon power except in times of impeachment. And that's why I was saying, if you were to start impeachment proceedings against him in the House, it's never been tested at the Supreme Court, but would that prevent him from issuing, dozens and dozens of pardons to, people like Ken Paxton?
Well, that's an interesting idea. I mean, I'd have to explore it. And certainly if he does, if he starts to, if there's evidence he's going to do something like that, we should consider using any tool at our disposal. I mean, of course, he could resign, and Pence could do it as well. Who knows what he's doing on the way out? I mean, the sad thing is he's gotten the lesson that he can do almost anything, and his base is going to stick with him, and that's why I think he feels so brazen in what he's doing.
Yeah. Congressman, we just have 40 seconds. How best can Congress address that? I mean, I think you just put your finger on the biggest problem we have right here, which is that, for 40 years we've been letting Republicans get away with this stuff. For 60 years, since Nixon.
Yeah, I think we have to be tougher. I think Democrats are, by temperament, ones seeking reconciliation, seeking dialogue, thinking, can't we just see the better of the argument? And we've now been confronted over and over again with a party that's cynically about power. And we have to be clear-eyed about what we're dealing with.
Yeah, well said. 45 minutes past the hour. Congressman Ro Khanna taking your calls for the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls for Congressman Khanna in just a moment. You can check out his website at Khanna, KHANNA.house.gov. And his Twitter handle is Rep Ro Khanna.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. Thom Hartmann here with you. We'll be right back with Congressman Ro Khanna. And welcome back. David in Woodland Hills, California. David, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
On the subject of better Democratic messaging, Tom has been asking the liberal billionaires like Tom Steyer to buy a media empire to rival Fox News, which they don't want to do. So how about we ask the liberal billionaires to fund a never-ending truth campaign of radio and TV commercials, especially in the Rush Limbaugh areas, like Got Milk, like Where's the Beef, just telling the truth about Mitch McConnell, the Republican agenda versus the Democratic agenda. If they don't want to buy a network, certainly they could fund this campaign.
Well, I agree with you, and I think that the rights donors have been much more strategic about putting money into radio, putting money into television stations, putting money into infrastructure, and our donors have not, and that's changing. There have been some of the donors, big donors in Silicon Valley, Reid Hoffman, Laurene Powell Jobs, and others who did a lot of infrastructure work in digital technology for efforts to elect Biden and Harris. And I think that their efforts made a material difference. But we have to get them focused also on other communication, including radio and things Tom has been talking about.
Chris in Portland, Oregon. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yes, hi. I'm curious about this possible stimulus check, the $1,200 maybe. Will it include people who are on Social Security? They keep saying working people, but that's it.
Tom, Chris, yes, it will include people on Social Security. It's drafted the way that the Democrats want. It has an income cutoff, but if your income is below $100,000, as I think the number that's being floated, or 75 to 100,000, then you would get the check. This, though, is being debated. I mean, the Republican bill didn't have stimulus checks. The president wanted stimulus checks of $600, but he wanted to take away unemployment insurance. You can't take away people's unemployment insurance to give people stimulus checks. So the whole thing is being debated. My view is we have to be focused on the unemployment insurance extensions and on the stimulus checks to people.
So just to be clear, and we've got about 40 seconds. Trump is saying we'll give you $600, but we're going to take away your unemployment. Mitch McConnell is saying we're not going to give you anything, and the Democrats are saying we want to give you $600 a week and extend your unemployment. Do I have that right?
You're absolutely right. The Democrats are saying we want to extend your unemployment and give you $1,200 of checks, and some Democrats like me have been saying $2,000 of checks, but at least $1,200 is the party position.
So the Democrats are talking about one-off stimulus checks as opposed to ongoing weekly supplemental checks.
The Democratic position is we have the unemployment insurance extended. Those are ongoing weekly checks plus a one-off stimulus check.
Okay, got it. Thank you. It's coming up on 10 minutes before the hour. We'll be back in just a moment with more of your calls for Congressman Khanna, who represents the 17th District of California in the U.S. House of Representatives, is a vice chair in the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and Khanna.house.gov and Rep. Khanna on Twitter are the ways that you can reach out to him or learn more about him. The hidden history of the war on voting tells how the GOP has been stealing elections for decades and will again this year unless we stop them. Hey, we have a new video over at ThomHartmann.com for people who are supporters of our program. It is the 12 steps. Common Cause actually put these together, but I boiled them down into a nice little rant on a YouTube video that you can share with friends and neighbors and acquaintances who might be wondering, how did this coronavirus thing get so bad? Why is it that the United States has a third of the deaths in the world? Why do we have over 100,000 dead people, and South Korea has 200, and Taiwan has like 70, and Australia has fewer than 100, and has pretty much squashed the virus? Why is it that only 7 people died in New Zealand? Why are so many other countries doing so well and we're not? Well, there's an answer to that question, and I lay it out in this little video. It's over at ThomHartmann.com, and you can grab it there and share it with your friends. And I'll give you a clue. Almost all of it has to do with things that orange guy in the White House either did or failed to do, but it's a great list. You can check it out at ThomHartmann.com. Welcome back, Congressman Khanna, taking your calls for the hour. And Stephanie in Yarmouth, Maine, you are on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hi, it's Yarmouth. Close to Portland, the other Portland. Yesterday, Tulsi Gabbard introduced H.R. 8932, which, if passed, this bill would make it a violation for institutions that receive federal funding to permit a person whose biological sex at birth is male to participate in an athletic program or activity that's designated for women or girls. In other words, it's a bill to withdraw Title IX funding from local school districts who let trans kids participate in sports. I wonder how you feel about that.
In terms of the funding for trans kids to participate in sports, I mean, I absolutely think that the funding should allow trans children to participate in sports, and that schools that were banning that or discriminating against that should not receive.
Christine, and whoops, I hit the button right here. Christine in St. Augustine, Texas. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I'd just like to know what Congress is doing about us dismantling the survey jets that are, able to go and survey over Russia and survey over Iran and China. I know that they're being dismantled at the present time, and it really worries me.
Christine, I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I would have to look into that issue. Tom, do you know what survey jets she's speaking about?
We had a treaty with Russia and a bunch of European countries, and that said that we could fly over each other's territory with spy planes to make sure that nobody is moving large numbers of troops in preparation for invasions and things. And Europe had been depending on us. We had 2 full-time, 24-hour in the airplanes flying around. And a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump ended that program, pulled us out of the treaty, and ordered the 2 planes to be scrapped. It'll take years to replace them. That's what she's talking about. So nobody right now is watching. If Russia's massing troops on the border with Ukraine, nobody knows right now.
Yeah, well, that's a real problem. And I will look into it on the Armed Services Committee. I mean, obviously, we don't want to be provocative needlessly, but we should be vigilant, and we should recognize that Putin has violated major human rights by marching into Ukraine, by earlier marching into Georgia. And if we don't have surveillance, we're basically giving him a license. And so this, I think, will be a top priority of the Biden administration to resume that basic reconnaissance.
Okay. Let's see here. James in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hey, James, you're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Hey, gentlemen. Would like to just say to Representative Congressman Khanna, I was just wondering, we've been touching base a little bit, and Tom talked about it earlier this week, about the Trump administration actively trying to put the kibosh or try to dismantle the SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance.
James, that is something that we need to expand, not and not dismantle. The Trump administration is not going to be able to touch that. It has to go to Congress. But as you know, the SSDI and SSI are woefully inadequate for people who are either disabled or poor and don't have any income. You can barely survive. It's $1,000 a month. We need to have an increase in that. We need to have an increase in people being able to accumulate savings. Right now, you can't more than $2,000. And Tom and I have discussed this in the past, how many people have benefited from SSDI if you get injured or have some unfortunate accident in the middle of your life. But right now it's inadequate, and we need to expand it. And we can make all of these expansions if we just started taxing Social Security income over $250,000 like every worker is taxed on the entirety of their income.
Steve in San Diego. We have just 1 minute till the top of the hour. You're on the air with Congressman Khanna.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could talk about in Congress about messaging to promote to the media maybe a 1 minute commercial regarding the fascist tactics of Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell blocking everything.
Steve, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a recurring theme amongst your listeners, Tom, is that we're not doing a good enough job of getting the message out that McConnell is the obstacle and blocking everything. And how do we get this message in a minute that's compelling, that breaks through, so people just don't think, everyone in Congress is at fault. And I will talk to our caucus and our communication strategy. And if your listeners have ideas, you can email me, ro@rokhanna.com. But I hear you that we need to do a better job of getting this message out.
15 seconds for final thoughts.
Well, the final thoughts, I think it is just a total abdication of American government to have the kind of suffering we do, being the richest country in the world and not being able to help people. I mean, it's shameful.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Congressman, thanks so much for dropping by today. It's great talking with you.
Thank you, Tom. Always enjoy it.
Back at you. We'll be right back with Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. X-Chair, changing the world one seat at a time. More information at xchairtom.com. Bloomsy Box, simply better blooms. More info available at bloomsybox.com, code TOM. And Boll & Branch Sheets, crafted for the common good. More info at bollandbranch.com, code TOM.
Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, 877-378-8669. It's the giving season, as it's often referred to. And it's a great time to be generous if you have the ability. And Free Speech TV is a great place to share your generosity with. It's an extraordinary television network, and it's supported entirely by its listeners. No billionaires behind it, no big corporations behind it. The only mention of corporations, in fact, that you will see is probably during my show when we put up that 1 minute about our sponsors, and that's supporting my end of the show. None of that goes to the network. So they rely literally 100% on your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number, and help out Free Speech TV. Keep this network going. Keep this network alive, keep this network vibrant and vital. There's so much great programming on Free Speech TV. Give them a call. Tell them what you like, tell them what you don't, tell them what you'd like to see more of. It's a great opportunity and time to provide feedback. Most important when you're making a gift to Free Speech TV is to consider a regular monthly contribution to become what's called a sustaining member. And the sustaining members are a large part of the real backbone and core of what keeps Free Speech TV going, in addition to some just very dedicated, wonderful employees and a great team of people and some great programs. I think we do a pretty good job too, I hope. But you add all that together and it's really worth support. It's worthy. Free Speech TV is worthy of your support. Please call now, 877-378-8669. They have a bunch of premiums. With the regular recurring gifts, regardless of whether you commit to $5 a month or whether you commit to $50 a month, you will get a Free Speech TV refrigerator magnet that is just like super cool. And with the one-time gifts, you have your choice. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. Our friend of our show, Caleb, printed these up for us. He has a printing company, printed these up for us years ago. Periodically sends us a new box. It's just like, it's kind of a gift to us and now a gift to you, your $20 gift to Free Speech TV. Or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the tote bag, and these are really nice heavy-duty canvas tote bags that says change never happens from the top down, and which is so true. Change always happens from the bottom up. That's why I do Free Speech TV every day. That's why I do my show. Because if I can inspire you and you can inspire others, then, collectively, from the bottom up, we can change society. That's the message of that tote bag. It's pretty cool. It's, kind of a variation on Margaret Mead's old saying that never think that a small group of, I'm paraphrasing here, a small group of dedicated people can't change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV black hat or the Thom Hartmann Program ceramic mug, or porcelain, or whatever they call that, a good heavy-duty sturdy mug. With a $100 gift, a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Free Speech TV Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which is very cool. The one I think is going to be a collector's item. With a $120 gift, you get a choice of either the Free Speech TV t-shirt or either one of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. These have a book plate in them autographed by me, so they become collector's items as well. Or, you can sell them for an extra $5 on eBay. So there's that. With a $240 gift, get together with us for our online virtual meet and greet, or get the Free Speech TV hoodie, or get both my books, Monopoly and Oligarchy, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, the Thom Hartmann University winter box. That's the Oligarchy book, the Monopoly book, the set of 2 face masks, and the Quarantine 2020 tumbler. and with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. I almost said Washington. Come to Portland, Oregon here, and hang out with us as we do our show, and we'll get a bite to eat afterwards. This is all obviously post-quarantine, so we're building up a list right now. But the most important thing is that you're helping Free Speech TV. And in particular, if you can help out with these regular monthly gifts. If you want to give a one-time gift, that's wonderful, and you get the premium. And then you could just say, I'd really like that autographed copy of The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which won't be out for another couple months, about a month and a half, 2 months now. But it will come, and it'll be an autographed copy. Say, I'd love that Hidden History of Oligarchy, so, let me give you $120, but also, take $5 off my credit card for the rest of the year, or for, whatever, until I tell you to stop. So you can do both, and you'll get the refrigerator magnet too, the calendar. Call now, 877-378-8669. Policy and power.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back to Anything Goes Friday. It's you and me for the hour. What's on your mind? I have shared some of the things that are on my mind that on July 10th, 1861, the United States Senate had a resolution introduced into it expelling 10 members of the Senate for supporting the Confederacy in their sedition. I think that in the House of Representatives, we have 106 members who are openly seditious, and they should be treated the same. But then that's me. I looked at I read most of Ken Paxton's pleading. I shared a lot of that with you at the beginning of the week when it first dropped. I think it was on Monday. And now I've read this was filed with the Supreme Court yesterday. In this case, State of Texas v. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And this is the opposition to motion for leave to file bill of complaint and motion for preliminary injunction, temporary restraining order, or stay. I think they misspelled temporary in this, which is unfortunate. But anyhow, this is from the states. And just to give you it runs about 40 pages. And just to give you the overview, this is the table of contents. Mail-in voting under the Pennsylvania Election Code, number 1. Number 2, the 2020 general election. Number 3, Texas's allegations regarding Pennsylvania have already been rejected by both state and federal courts. Next, Texas's claims do not. These are the titles for the subheads for the portions of this filing with the Supreme Court by these 4 states in defense against Texas. Texas's claims do not meet the exacting standard necessary for the court to exercise its original jurisdiction. Texas does not present a viable case in controversy. Texas lacks standing to bring this issue. This untimely action is moot. In other words, hey, the election's already over. You can't do this. Texas fails to state a constitutional violation. Texas does not assert a meritorious electors clause claim. Texas has no basis for any equal protection or due process claim against Pennsylvania. Texas is not entitled to the extraordinary preliminary injunction it seeks. Texas cannot meet the high standard for injunctive relief. And Texas's request to disenfranchise tens of millions of voters who reasonably relied upon the law at the time of the election does great damage to the public interest. The question in my mind, I told you when this first was filed, and I think we were probably one of the first places to break the news, actually, or report the news. I didn't break it. Was that I thought that, at the most there was a 5% chance that the Supreme Court would seriously consider this case and issue any sort of ruling on behalf of Texas. I think that probability now is less than 1%. It is still a threat, and the fact that it's a threat should cause all of us, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, moderates, independents, I mean, whatever your political stripe, if you believe in our Constitution, or at least the concepts of our Constitution in a representative democratic republic, we hire representatives to do our work for us and defend and to advocate for our interests and legislate on our behalf. We do it through winner-take-all elections, which is what's called democracy, the democratic part of it. And we operate, beginning to end within the framework of law, a Republican form of government. And, this is just an absolute, full-blown, all-out assault on that, this attempt. And I think it needs to be recognized as such, and it needs to be taken on as such. And this is just a few quotes, by the way, from the counter, it's not a countersuit, from the defense offered by Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia. This is from the Pennsylvania Attorney General. The state of Texas has now added its voice to the cacophony of bogus claims. This is literally what they're saying to the Supreme Court, these are word for word. Its request for this court is legally indefensible and is an affront to principles of constitutional democracy. What Texas is doing in this proceeding is to ask this court to reconsider a mass of baseless claims about problems with the election that have already been considered and rejected by this court and others. Texas obviously lacks standing to bring such claims. Texas has not suffered harm simply because it dislikes the result of the election. This includes, they talk about Texas. The cascading series of compounding defects in Texas's filings is only underscored by the surreal alternate reality that these filings attempt to construct. That alternate reality, this is the state of Pennsylvania speaking to the Supreme Court about Texas. That alternate reality includes an absurd statistical analysis positing that the probability of President-elect Biden winning the election was, and then they actually quote from the Republican complaint where Ken Paxton, in his effort to get Donald Trump to pardon him, writes this thing to the Supreme Court. And literally, this is a quote from Texas's filing with the Supreme Court. The statistical probability of Joe Biden winning the election is 1 in a quadrillion. End quote. That's somewhere between absurd and obscene, right? That was part of their bill. It was item number 6 in their bill of complaints. And then back to Pennsylvania. The court should not abide this seditious abuse. Seditious abuse. You think I'm, on a high horse or yelling about these guys here saying they should be expelled from the House? Here is the state of Pennsylvania officially saying to the United States Supreme Court that the state of Texas and all of their allies are engaged in sedition. The court should not abide this seditious abuse of the judicial process and should send a clear and unmistakable signal that such abuse must never be replicated. Do I hear an amen? Okay, let's pick up some of your phone calls here. Al in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Hey, Al, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. You get me so riled up in support of what you say. While I'm on hold, I forget about what I'm calling for.
Well, it says here you want to talk about McConnell.
Yes. He's digging his heels in and coming to a deal with Pelosi because of funding of state and federal budgets. And she's digging her heels in on the liability for employers. McConnell comes from a state and balances his budget in Kentucky from federal funding every year, regardless of pandemic or not. How come that is never brought up? And why do the Democrats not dig in their heels and mention the hypocrisy of what he's saying? He can't run his state without federal funding. He's like number two.
Yeah, this was my Twitter rant yesterday, was that we need to pass a law that says that no state can get more than $1.50 back from Washington, D.C. for every dollar they send to D.C. Kentucky right now gets $2.41 for every dollar they send to D.C. That should be outlawed. And we should call that bill welfare reform. And, and just go at it, heads on.
I called a couple of weeks ago when you had Congressman Bouquet on, and I had the same conversation with him, and he didn't give a thorough answer on this, but McConnell relies on this money, and he's out there complaining about the blue states. It's complete hypocrisy.
Yeah. No, I get it, and it's mind-boggling that that the last stimulus legislation over on Fox News and on right-wing hate radio was referred to as a blue state bailout. Really? I mean, I get it that it's kind of alliterative and it sounds kind of cool, but really? We'll be back with you.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Speaking the truth, the multinational corporations would really rather you didn't know all about. And welcome back. Jeff in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, Tom. Happy Friday, and thanks for taking my call. I wanted to refer back to the caller yesterday asking you what you have against rich people. And, Tom, I think we need to flip that around because it seems to me that before the so-called Reagan Revolution from, about 1932 to 1980, the middle class in this country, the working people, had a healthy distrust, even a disdain for the obscenely rich. And during that time, we built as you often say, we built the largest middle class in the history of the world. And, you were saying earlier, starting in the 60s and 70s, these rich guys like the Koch brothers got together and started plotting. And, in my opinion, in 1980, they hit jackpot. They found their shiny, happy puppet Reagan. And besides fomenting this distrust in government, saying government isn't the solution, it's the problem, and that's why we got Mitch McConnell, if you ask me. But also, Reagan demonized poor people. He stoked racism, making up stories about so-called welfare queens driving Cadillacs, et cetera, et cetera. And that began, this Republican Party and their adherents' worship of the wealthy. And the end result is the gross caricature that is Donald Trump, the guy who's got so much blood on his hands from this pandemic and is currently trying to subvert our democracy. What are your thoughts, Tom?
Well, I don't disagree with anything that you said. Was there a specific question in there beyond do I agree with you?
Well, I mean, don't you think, we know how...
I thought you said it very well, in fact, Jeff.
Okay, thanks. But, you've mentioned it before, but that whole thing about, turning America's, attention instead of looking up with skepticism to the rich people and turning it down and having scorn for people, struggling, that changed our whole psyche and really allowed for them to get away with this massive reverse Robin Hood, $40 trillion of money transferred from the working and middle class to the rich. Isn't it $40 trillion during this last 40 years?
I've seen various numbers going from as low as 12 trillion to as high as 40. Yeah. Jeff, I think that if we don't look at the actual structural stuff that happened and just, assume that this is all about memes and political messaging, we miss the boat. This shift in wealth from working people to the top was the result largely of a couple of things. Number one, Reagan's destruction of the union movement. Number two, Reagan's dropping the top tax rate from 74% down to 25%. And number three, Reagan's stopping the enforcement of the Sherman Antitrust Act and other antitrust laws, which allowed monopolies to explode across the American landscape. And the monopolies, are among the worst offenders when it comes to only paying minimum wage or close to it. So, we have to recognize that there's kind of a whole thing here. Yes, Reagan was the guy who put it into place. Republicans have been pushing for it since the Goldwater era, when the Republican Party left behind Eisenhower and decided to go toward what ultimately became Reaganism. But it was put into place there. And I think we need to point those things out, and then I think the meme will take care of itself. Jeff, I got to run, but thanks for the call. Very thoughtful conversation. I appreciate it. We'll be right back. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Hey, we have a new video for supporters of our program over at thomhartmann.com. It's about curing type 1 diabetes, which is a pretty amazing thing. Type 1 diabetes is where the cells in the pancreas that produce insulin are actually destroyed. They're gone. Type 1 diabetics, typically it shows up in childhood, and without insulin, people die from it fairly young. With insulin, they can live a good long life, but a University of Alberta researcher, Dr. James Shapiro, back in 1990 pioneered a transplant system. Now, the problem with that was that people had to use immunosuppressive drugs for the rest of their lives because they had just gotten, a partial pancreas transplant from another person. But now he's successfully on mice worked out a way of actually curing type 1 diabetes. We can't do it legally here in the United States, but they're doing it in Canada. It's amazing. You can check it out at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back to Anything Goes Friday. Anita in British Columbia, Canada. Hey, Anita, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I wanted to talk about bullies and the fact that they don't just deflect and project. They really cannot imagine a world where people aren't either bullies or victims, period. And they think everybody else thinks the way they do. They can't, it's like stupid people don't know that other people aren't stupid. And I first learned this when I worked at a job where the boss's secretary was a bully who was trying to get me fired. And I decided I wasn't going to fight fire with fire because I didn't want to be like her. That's not me. And so when I would pass her in the hall, I'd smile at her. And the woman got a look of absolute terror on her face and hugged the opposite wall when I would do that. So I talked to a friend of mine, my counselor, my psychologist counselor, and he said, he's the one who enlightened me and said, she just cannot imagine that you are not a bully too, that you don't, or at least you don't want to be. And so she thinks you've got something on her. And so Donald Trump and all the other Republicans who haven't, not all Republicans are bullies, but the ones who are bullies, they just can't imagine any other kind of world.
Anita, I think you've tapped into some sort of a universal truth. I think I told the story a few years ago about when I was 7 years old and a kid in second grade accused me of stealing their pencil box. And I hadn't, but, it was gone, and the teacher was willing to buy that kid's accusation, and I was crushed. And I went home in tears, and my dad sat me down, and he said, people who think you're stealing are probably thieves themselves. Thieves think everybody's stealing. And so, what he's saying is more of a reflection on him than it is on you. So just, take it that way and go on with your life. Don't worry about this. And it just, that experience changed my life. I mean, it's like, it was such a huge wake up. And I think you're right. I think bullies assume that everybody else is a bully, and they or a victim, intentionally, and they get it. Brilliant, Anita. I need to move along, but thank you. That was a great one. I appreciate it. Rick in Mobile, Alabama. Hey, Rick, what's up?
Hey, Tom. It's first-time caller. Several weeks ago, you had a caller who was concerned about the 2022 election. And you seem to be pretty upbeat about it. And I was just very disappointed in 2010 after all the people that supported Obama in 2008, did not support him in the 2010 election. And it just seemed like everything went downhill from there. And I just was hoping you would expand a little bit more on why you're so upbeat about the 2010 or 2022 election. And I'll sign off now and let you talk about that if you would.
Sure. Thanks, Rick. Well, there's going to be, again, thank you. There's going to be what you might call exogenous factors, external factors that are going to influence this election, and we have yet to see how well they're going to pop up and where their focus is going to be. But that's what happened in 2010. When Barack Obama was elected, you had basically two things. Number one, there was a massive white backlash, which was really well embodied and defined and articulated and shown by Donald Trump's birtherism. And so this whole theory that, he's an illegitimate president, he's a black guy in the White House, that's not possible. That's why we call it the White House, or whatever, that kind of stuff. But the other thing that happened that I think was even more consequential, frankly, although they were synergistic, was they supported each other, was that the Koch network and other right-wing billionaires poured all kinds of money into FreedomWorks and a couple of other organizations. FreedomWorks was kind of the point of the spear, to rent these $300,000 buses all over the country and find local people, much of this organized through Facebook again, and created this organization, or actually they took an organization that had been created back in the 1980s by the tobacco industry to create a phony grassroots upswell for smokers' rights. And the smokers' rights group was called the Tea Party. And it was started by the tobacco lobby. And it really never went anywhere. They just couldn't light a fire under this thing, to mangle a metaphor. No pun intended. And so, the Koch brothers reinvented that and brought it back to life. And the thing that they levered it around was Obamacare. And you combine that with the fact that they knew that 2010 was a year that ends with zero, and so they wanted they wanted to seize control of as many state houses as possible so that they could control redistricting and they could gerrymander the hell out of the rest of the United States, thus cementing Republican holds on power for a long, long time. I mean, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, all three of these states, the majority of people in the last couple of elections have voted for Democrats, to send them to Congress, to send them to, whatever. And yet their legislatures are still controlled by Republicans and their congressional delegations are controlled by Republicans. That's because of gerrymandering. And so there was that enormous effort. Well, 2022 is not a year where, a census year, but we don't know yet what kind of money is going to come into this thing. And we don't know how they're going to turn it. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And the source of my optimism is that Donald Trump is going to be disgraced, and I think many of his followers are going to fall away. I may be a starry-eyed optimist, but I think I'm right. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, 877-378-8669. It's the giving season, as it's often referred to. And it's a great time to be generous if you have the ability. And Free Speech TV is a great place to share your generosity with. It's an extraordinary television network, and it's supported entirely by its listeners. No billionaires behind it, no big corporations behind it. The only mention of corporations, in fact, that you will see is probably during my show when we put up that 1 minute about our sponsors, and that's supporting my end of the show. None of that goes to the network. So they rely literally 100% on your help. So please call now, 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. And help out Free Speech TV. Keep this network going. Keep this network alive, keep this network vibrant and vital. There's so much great programming on Free Speech TV. Give them a call. Tell them what you like, tell them what you don't, tell them what you'd like to see more of. It's a great opportunity and time to provide feedback. Most important when you're making a gift to Free Speech TV is to consider a regular monthly contribution to become what's called a sustaining member. And the sustaining members are the real, a large part of the real backbone and core of what keeps Free Speech TV going, in addition to some just very dedicated, wonderful employees and a great team of people and some great programs. I think we do a pretty good job too, I hope. But you add all that together and it's really worth support. It's worthy. Free Speech TV is worthy of your support. Please call now, 877-378-8669. They have a bunch of premiums. With the regular recurring gifts, regardless of whether you commit to $5 a month or whether you commit to $50 a month, you will get a Free Speech TV refrigerator magnet that is just like super cool. And with the one-time gifts, you have your choice. With a $20 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University, proud student of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker. Our friend of our show, Caleb, printed these up for us. He has a printing company, printed these up for us years ago. Periodically sends us a new box. It's just like, it's kind of a gift to us and now a gift to you with your $20 gift to Free Speech TV. Or the Free Speech TV Fight for Democracy sticker. With a $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV webcam cover or the tote bag, and these are really nice heavy-duty canvas tote bags that says change never happens from the top down, and which is so true. Change always happens from the bottom up. That's why I do Free Speech TV every day. That's why I do my show. Because if I can inspire you and you can inspire others, then, collectively, from the bottom up, we can change society. That's the message of that tote bag. It's pretty cool. It's, kind of a variation on Margaret Mead's old saying that never think that a small group of, I'm paraphrasing here, a small group of dedicated people can't change the world. Indeed, that's the only way it's ever happened. With the $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV black hat or the Thom Hartmann Program ceramic mug, or porcelain, or whatever they call that, a good, heavy-duty, sturdy mug. With a $100 gift, a set of 2 Free Speech TV face masks or the Free Speech TV Quarantine 2020 tumbler, which is very cool. The one I think is going to be a collector's item. With a $120 gift, you get a choice of either the Free Speech TV t-shirt or either one of my books, The Hidden History of Monopolies or The Hidden History of American Oligarchy. These have a bookplate in them autographed by me, so they become collector's items as well. Or, you can sell them for an extra $5 on eBay. So there's that. With a $240 gift, get together with us for our online virtual meet and greet, or get the Free Speech TV hoodie, or get both my books, Monopoly and Oligarchy, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, the Thom Hartmann University winter box. That's the Oligarchy book, the Monopoly book, a set of 2 face masks, and the Quarantine 2020 tumbler. And with a $1,000 gift, get in line to come to Portland. I almost said Washington. Come to Portland, Oregon here, and hang out with us as we do our show, and we'll get a bite to eat afterwards. This is all obviously post-quarantine, so we're building up a list right now. But the most important thing is that you're helping Free Speech TV, and in particular, if you can help out with these regular monthly gifts. If you want to give a one-time gift, that's wonderful, and you get the premium, and then you could just say, yeah, I'd really like that autographed copy of The Hidden History of Oligarchy, which won't be out for another couple months, about a month and a half, 2 months now. But it will come, and it'll be an autographed copy. Say, yeah, I'd love that Hidden History of Oligarchy, so, let me give you $120, but also, take $5 off my credit card for the rest of the year, or for, whatever, until I tell you to stop. So you can do both, and you'll get the refrigerator magnet too, the calendar. Call now, 877-378-8669. Daily rants and weekly op-eds at HartmannReport.com. It's free and there's no ads. HartmannReport.com. So we have a new video up over at thomhartmann.com for people who are signed up, for supporters of our program. And it's about how Donald Trump, 16 days after Mr. Khashoggi was murdered by the Saudis in Turkey and his body dismembered and vanished, 16 days after that happened, without notifying Congress and with virtually no mention to anybody, Donald Trump authorized the transfer of top secret nuclear technology to the Saudis. This should be a serious issue. Tim Kaine, the senator from Virginia, is raising hell about it because Khashoggi lived in Virginia. But I think everybody in Congress should be raising hell about this. And when you back this up with this new report out from ProPublica that the Saudis were involved in 9/11, it gets real interesting. So you can check that out over at thomhartmann.com. You know, look for our basically members-only video. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Kurt from Beverly Hills. Hey, Kurt, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Hey, if my memory serves me well, during President Obama's first term, the Republican Party went through a lot of trouble to eliminate so-called uncertainty in the economy, albeit it was just for big corporations. Do you remember that?
Yeah. You're talking about the what was it, a $900 billion bailout bill that they finally negotiated?
Well, yeah, that, but they kept saying they wanted to extend the Bush tax cuts because they wanted to make sure that corporations had certainty in the market, and that would help the economy to grow if there was certainty. Right. So my question is, though, why now is the GOP leaving the American people in so much uncertainty about the economy by not passing the current stimulus bill? Because if I'm not mistaken, Congress regulates commerce. They pretty much set the rules for the banks. So, you know, I'm just trying to figure out, why have the American people been asked to tighten their belt and not work and stay home for the pandemic, but the financial sector, they don't have to do anything. I mean, they're still charging 23.99% interest compounded monthly on credit cards. They say, oh, you don't have to make a payment. We're fine. You just skip a payment. But you skip a payment, that builds a credit bubble. And then if you do make a payment, they snatch away your available credit. You know, you pick up a car, next thing you know, boom, they snatch $5,000 from you. So you can't win for losing.
Yeah. I totally get it, Kurt, and I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here, but I don't think a very large one. I believe that what's going on here, and I've not seen any commentators basically lay this out in any of the, in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post, anything like that, Financial Times, the papers that I read every morning. But what I think is going on is that Mitch McConnell is betting that the Republican messaging is so much better than the Democratic messaging. He has gotten away with blocking the HEROES Act since June, or May, actually. It was passed in May in the House of Representatives. So we've had, 6 months here almost, where the Democrats have been offering a solution to the nation's problems, funding our schools, funding our cities, funding our police, funding, basically the basic functions, giving $600 a week to everybody who's unemployed, extending long-term unemployment benefits into the middle of next year, all that stuff, propping up state and local governments. But there's been no peep about it in the press. And McConnell's looking at that going, okay, I can get away with this. We're going to make things so miserable, so god-awful miserable, so wretched for the American people by not going along with the Democrats in helping people out. And we're betting, the Republicans, they're betting, McConnell is betting, that the American people will blame the Democrats or generically blame Congress rather than blame the Republicans for this. And the result will be widespread discontent with Joe Biden and the Democrats, and that will help them in the 2022 election. I think that McConnell is intentionally trying to ratchet up the pain on average Americans, on working class Americans, and poor Americans, particularly those who vote. And he's doing that totally cynically to advance his own power and the wealth that comes from that power. So that's my theory, Kurt. And I'm standing by it. Charles in Hollywood. Hey, Charles, what's on your mind?
Hey, my thing is these militias. these right-wing militias and the armed protesters, and representing Donald Trump and the Republican Party. First of all, they're supposed to be Christians, and
they claim they are.
Well, yeah, they claim they are. But what I mean is, when we take over, if everything goes well, I think the Congress has to set up some type of committee that's going to look into investigating these militias. And also, one more last thing before I go. They want to. The Republicans are claiming that we want to, help all of the people that's undocumented, so that they'll turn around and be Democratic voters. Well, the Republicans, they have a Trojan horse that's going on right now, and it's basically everybody that comes from Cuba. They know that they can win them over by saying that Democrats are communists, and unfortunately, those folks, when they come over, they actually do vote Republican, and they're not being counted as undocumented, but the Republicans are steady filling their ranks. If you look at the last...
Well, they're not undocumented.
Right.
We passed a law that says that if you can make it from Cuba to the United States and put one foot on our land, you are instantly granted the opportunity for citizenship, no questions asked. And you're right, Charles. These Cuban ancestry Hispanics in Florida, a noticeable percentage of them, I think it was over 35%, some very high percentage of them voted for Trump. That said, though, there's also, and this is completely flying below everybody's radar, there's been an explosion, particularly in Texas and Florida, of right-wing conservative Spanish language radio. And that's, I think, the biggest factor that's driving this stuff. I hope I didn't blow up your argument, Charles. Back to you.
Well, no. But what I mean is that whether it's the Cubans or anyone else coming, from Latin America, that this country has experienced any bit of communism, they're targeting these folks, and then, of course, portraying Democrats as the bad guys who want to turn America communist. And I just think if we can delve through that and we can break through those lies, we may be able to get some of those voters to actually, come over to our side and realize that, their dream of being progressive as well and enjoying, what progressives have done in this country to make America better will also get them to vote Democratic. Okay, but I just want you to keep that in mind, Tom.
Sure. I hope you're right, Charles, and I think that, what you're speaking to really emphasizes the need for a genuine progressive messaging machine beyond just this show. Thank you, Charles. Brad in Prattville, Alabama. Hey, Brad, what's up?
Hey, Tom. My question is, let's say, for instance, we are able to criminally convict him or civilly convict him of anything. Would the U.S. government be able to seize his properties and repurpose those for the public good?
The IRS certainly can.
Okay. Because, my thought was similar to how Arlington Cemetery was started. After the Civil War, it was, that was Robert E. Lee's property. And then they said, you betrayed the country. We're going to take your property and we're going to put a cemetery there so that it's in your front yard. You'll see how it goes. And I think, a place like Mar-a-Lago would be a wonderful rehabilitation center for wounded veterans, or Trump Tower would be a great place to put people that are struggling with income to have affordable housing. Prove a point.
Yeah, I am totally with you, Brad. And the Internal Revenue Service has the power to seize property. It's long established, and they've been doing it for over a century. And I am totally supportive of that effort. Thank you, Lauren in Morris, Illinois. Hey, Lauren, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. I was wondering if you could explain all the executions going on death row all of a sudden. Why? What is going on? Why is that happening?
We have not had federal executions, I believe, since the end of the Bush administration. I'm pretty sure that Obama put a moratorium on federal executions, and so there's a line right now. And one of those cases is a young man, he was sentenced to death, I think he was under 20 at the time, and he's been on death row for something like half his life now. You know, he's in his late 30s or 40s. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. I was just reading about his case yesterday, but it's popping up all over. Excuse me, and he's supposed to be executed tonight, I believe. And there's new evidence, and there's people suggesting he was not just denied good representation, but that he may well even be innocent. I think that what Trump is doing, and Bill Barr is doing, you know, Bill Barr, the great Catholic savior who speaks to right-wing Catholic groups, who calls himself pro-life, is they just want to kill as many people as possible because they delight in it, and they know that their base delights in it. I see no other possible explanation for what's going on other than politics. That
and
this
it's
is their
happening
parting
right
shot.
now. It's happening right now before he leaves office. That's his
correct.
plan?
That's correct. One of them, at least one of them I know is planned for tonight. Yeah, that's what he's doing. Lauren, I got to run, but thank you. It's right up there with putting kids in cages, in my mind. I mean, just it's gratuitous violence for violence sake. And not only is he killing them, but Trump issued an executive order bringing back the firing squads for the purpose of killing them. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And of course, in the case that I was talking about, the guy who was perhaps wrongly convicted was African American. Is anybody shocked? And welcome back. Nancy in Woodland, California. Hey, Nancy, what's on your mind today?
Hi. Yeah, we've been talking about McConnell a lot today, and, you know, sitting on legislation, not letting bills go through and so forth. And I'm just wondering, is there a way of changing the rules so that that position is not so all-powerful? I mean, I understand the need for shepherding legislation through Congress and that sort of thing, but, I mean, it doesn't seem right that one person, you know, I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican, can just sit on bills and not let anything happen.
Yeah. It wouldn't be legislation, it would be a change in the Senate rules. The Senate rules have evolved over the years to give the Senate Majority Leader more and more and more power. And by over years, I'm talking about over 100 years. Lyndon Johnson, when he was Senate Majority Leader, used this power with brutality is not quite the right word because it has a negative connotation, but he just used that. He was a master at using power. Lyndon Johnson was, and now you've got Mitch McConnell, who's as good as Lyndon Johnson was at using the power of his position. And that power is conferred to them by the Senate rules. The Constitution says that both bodies, the House and the Senate, shall each come up with their own set of rules, that those rules shall be re-ratified every 2 years when a new Congress is seated. And in fact, that's the first order of business. And that, they have to conduct themselves by those rules, but that those rules can be changed with a simple majority vote at any time, which is how Mitch McConnell got rid of the filibuster for judges, for example, and how Harry Reid got rid of the filibuster for the Supreme Court. Harry Reid was judges and Mitch McConnell was the Supreme Court. But whichever, you understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So the problem is that under the Senate rules right now, Mitch McConnell has all the power to influence the Senate rules. He would have to be the one who says, okay, today we're going to vote on the Senate rules. And that ain't going to happen. He's not going to change those rules that would diminish his power. The one thing that I think is a possibility, Nancy, and I've been doing a deep dive on this for 2 weeks. I've been talking about it on the air for a couple of weeks now. And there's a few constitutional scholars who are gung-ho on this and others who are very, very skeptical, which is why I have not yet published an op-ed on this topic, is that the Constitution, nowhere in the Constitution does it mention Senate Majority Leader. Mitch McConnell is not exercising constitutional power beyond the fact that the Senate rules give him that power. And the Constitution does say that the Senate shall create their own rules. So he's in a position that is not literally a constitutional position. It's indirectly. Whereas the Constitution does say that the Vice President is the President of the Senate. And Dick Cheney used that to claim that he was not a member of the executive branch and therefore was not subject to some congressional subpoenas and things like that because he was the president of the Senate, and that was more important than being vice president. And that's never been resolved by the Supreme Court. But I'm of the personal opinion that Kamala Harris can walk into the Senate and say, sorry, Mitch, I'm the president of the Senate. I'm going to recognize Bernie Sanders, for 5 minutes to bring forward a piece of legislation that we're all going to vote on. I'm going to recognize Elizabeth Warren to bring, I'm going to recognize Amy Klobuchar, that she could just walk in and take over. And, there are others saying, no, you can't do that. It would be a violation of the rules of the Senate. And I think that the Constitution's primary assertion overrules a secondary level of power through the Senate rules. But I may be wrong, but that's how I would do it. Mary, thank you for the call, or Nancy, excuse me, thank you for the call. We'll be right back. Thom Hartmann here. Did you know that the Second Amendment was written to protect the slave patrols in South Carolina and Georgia back in the day? It's in my new book, The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, available wherever you find great books. Did you know that 100 police officers, and the last year we have statistics for is 2017, so we'll use that. 100 police officers were killed by firearms during that year. Now, some were suicides, some were accidental shootings. A few of them were bad guys killing cops. 100. 1,000 of our soldiers all around the world were shot dead in 2017. 1,000. A little more dangerous, apparently, to be a soldier than to be a cop. But apparently, the most dangerous position in the United States is not being a police officer on the front lines. It's not being a soldier on the front lines of combat. It's being a child. School-aged children killed by firearms in 2017, 2,462 of them. We have a new video up over at thomhartmann.com about this situation and what we can do about it. You can check it out there. Ooh, welcome back. Mary in Waterloo, Iowa. Hey, Mary, what's on your mind today?
Well, back when I was listening to the Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Warnock debate, Kelly Loeffler stated that Biden was going to raise taxes on $75,000 wages and less, and Warnock didn't say anything. And none of our Democrat representatives or senator running for senator ever mentioned anything about taxes being raised on people earning $75,000 or less. And I know,
right, and Biden has made very, very clear that he is only going to raise taxes on people making more than $400,000 a year. Period. Full stop.
I know but it's already written in the tax code.
What is?
That the taxes are going to go up on $75,000 or less on wages.
Oh, you're right. Oh, so what you're saying, the penny just fell for me, Mary. Thank you. So what you're saying is that when Donald Trump got his 2017 $1.5 trillion tax cut for billionaires, buried in that was that starting in 2021, starting in about 2 weeks, the taxes on people making less than $75,000 are going to start going up, and they're going to start going up substantially, and they're going to go up every year until 2029. That is Donald Trump's law that was passed by the Republicans, and that Kelly Loeffler accused Warnock and the Democrats of being the source of that tax increase. You're absolutely right, Mary. I was. Go ahead.
And I was wondering I know there's so much to remember when they're debating. Does the Democrat Party really actually get some of these facts across to their Democrats?
The Democratic Party the Democratic Party does just a miserable job of both internal and external messaging. And, part of it is that there are so many factions within the Democratic Party. You've got some very, very conservative Democrats who are, frankly, directly to the right of Ronald Reagan. You've got some very progressive Democrats. You've got a whole bunch of people in the middle. You've got some who are heavily funded by individual industries, that happen to be big in their particular districts. And this causes conflict. I mean, whereas the Republicans have been far more in lockstep. Basically, they're taking money from any billionaire that wants to give it to them and any corporation that wants to give it to them, and they hire really, really good messaging people. So, it's a tough one. Mary, thank you for pointing that out, though. That was brilliant. Thank you. Jeff in Washington, Iowa. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I have a question for you.
Hey, Jeff. Mm-hmm.
I think that the Republican Party figured out a long time ago that the more pain they can inflict on working class white people, the more those people will blame blacks and Mexicans and women and whoever else for it. And I think it's like an operating principle they've gone with ever since.
This has been going on since the 50s, Jeff. Those black people want your jobs. And then in the 70s, it was those women want your jobs. And then in the 90s, it was those Hispanics want your jobs. I mean, it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's twisted.
It is. But it's in their DNA. It's, because the Republican Party has nothing to offer anybody who's not rich. I mean, it's really what it boils down to. Yeah. They'll throw a bone to the white racists. They'll throw a bone to the misogynists. They'll throw a bone to the anti-birth control freaks. They'll throw a bone to they'll throw a bone to the hardcore Christian televangelists and hustlers like that. But the people that they're really serving are the very, very rich. You nailed it. John in West Allis, Wisconsin. A minute to the end of the hour, the end of the day, the end of the week. What's up?
I'll try to make this quick then. I think we need a law to stop this type of attempted election stealing. And the law should be fairly simple. First of all, that all votes that are considered acceptable and certified by any state are valid ballots and will be counted, period. And secondly, that if you think that there is an invalid ballot, you need to go through the ballots one by one and only throw out those that are proven to be fraudulent.
Which is going to require paper ballots. But would you change your mind if I was to tell you that there's some growing evidence that something really hinky was going on in Kentucky, which is why Mitch McConnell won, even though all the polls said that Amy McGrath was going to win?
I really...
Keep in mind, John, things always cut two ways. I got to run, but thank you. Hey, special thanks to Louise Hartman, Sean Taylor, Nate Atwell, Jamie Holly, Joyce the Hammer Nance, Nigel Peacock, Sue Nethergott, Patrick Hoyt, Geraldine Halbert, Dave Fulton, Ron Hartenbaum, Chase Spross, Nicholas Miller, Pat Sweeney, and Jabbermocky, the people who help keep this show going. Thank you so much. And thank you to you for your support of our program. Whether it's calling out our sponsors and saying hi to them or supporting our nonprofit stations, thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Take good care of yourself and spread the word. Tag You're It. We'll see you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Let's talk.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com.
Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, 877-378-8660.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. X-Chair, changing the world one seat at a time. More information at xchairtom.com. Bloomsy Box, simply better blooms. More info available at bloomsybox.com, code TOM. And Bowl and Branch Sheets, crafted for the common good. More info at bowlandbranch.com, code TOM.